Peace and love, y'all. It's your brother A.D.V.I.S.S here with another episode of What's the Word Wednesdays, Season 4, Episode 4. Again, it's the final season, so let's get it in. But as we usually do, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to drop down in the comments the topic for tonight, or the topics for tonight, while at the same time, I'm going to put our logo in the background. And as y'all are coming in, y'all let me know how y'all doing, how y'all feeling, and what's the word? Whether if it's a word, whether if something's going well with you, please share it down in the comments. I appreciate y'all very much. As well as if you haven't already, shouts out Pasha, see you up in here 2 times in the building, 2 times in the building. Much love. What's the word? And if I haven't also already said so, shouts out to all of those who watch this now, or even if you watch this later, either on Instagram or YouTube. If you're on YouTube, go ahead, subscribe to your boy at A.D.V.I.S.S Speaks. There's more content coming. I know I keep saying it, but it is. It's on its way. So go ahead, subscribe to your boy. I'll see y'all there. Going on, Mr. Price. Peace and one love. Peace and one love. What's the word? Thank you for sliding through. I know you be busy. Do your thing, but I appreciate you coming through. Welcome to What's the Word. But yeah, we're going to let a few more people come through. But as that's happening too, for tonight's episode, quickly run down through it. So what we're going to be getting to for tonight's episode, of course, this first portion is going to be about the news. So I'm going to go through, do a few news articles. If you don't want to stay for that, just fast forward about 15-20 minutes and you can come back in. And later on, if you're watching this, again, fast forward and you'll see there'll be timestamps for you to go and pass by all of this stuff. So we got the topics of current events. Then second, we're going to talk about movies versus books. I just felt like doing it. Just switch it up a little bit for y'all. And then lastly, we're going to talk about how imagination and stories predict the path you take. Which you're like, okay, again, we're talking about something about paths and roads? Yes, we are. And how powerful books, movies, and other things have an effect on your path. So yes, we are going to. But yeah, appreciate you up in here. Thank you, Posh. Appreciate you. So let me go ahead. I'm setting everything up like I usually did. Like I usually do. I'm also going to work on my transitions and not as many ums. So if y'all want to have some fun in the comments, and this is even for now and later on, y'all could try to count how many times I'm saying if you watched it all the way through. If you don't, it's all good. I'm not even tripping. But I'm working on it. So while that is there, let's see if we give it a few more seconds, and then after that, we'll sing the show song and get this show on the road. Haha, on the road. All right. So let's go for it. So let's go ahead and do the show song. After that, we'll just jump right into the show. If y'all got questions, y'all things y'all want to share, again, remember, put them down in the comments. I appreciate it. As well as, since we're going to be doing the news, if you got news articles or anything that came up that you want to share, please put them in the comments. But let's go. And let me know if I sound okay too. At the same time, if I sound good, if I don't, gotta let me know. But people ask as well too, where's this gonna go? It's up to you. So what's the word, y'all? What's the word? What's the word, y'all? What's the word? What's the word, y'all? What's the word? Tell them like, what's the word? What's the word? What you heard? We gotta know, yeah, what's the word? Peace and love, y'all. It's your brother A.D.V.I.S.S here again with another episode of What's the Word Wednesdays, Season 4, the final season, Episode 4. So we back in here in it, And again, shouts out to everyone that's been riding with it so far. I appreciate the support, appreciate the love, y'all coming in, taking up your time just to come listen to me just talk, as well as see others' perspectives and hear them. So shouts out to y'all. And second, again, if you want to, go subscribe to A.D.V.I.S.S Speaks. It's going to be there. Always much love, and I appreciate that. What's going on, Kundan? Good to see you in here. What's the word? And let's run through one more time for tonight's topics. We're going to be getting into current events, movies versus books, and lastly, how imagination and stories predict the path you take. Or how can they? But for sure. All right. So like I said, let's go ahead and let's jump into current events. If y'all have some, drop them down in the comments. I appreciate y'all. I'm not the only source for news, as well as I ain't looking up every source for news. So if you have some, throw it in there. Right. I have 5 news articles, and then I also like to read y'all some other headlines from NPR. So I will go about doing that. So let's get into the first topic and get into the first article, which the first article comes from Slate, website Slate. And the headline reads, Biden is considering selling out poor Americans to get a debt ceiling deal. Again, headline reads, Biden is considering selling out poor Americans to get a debt ceiling deal. Every time we read these, 3 paragraphs, and we out of here. But yeah, I love tonight's topic because storytelling is my jam. You already know it. I had to talk about movies and books. It's very important. Storytelling is very important. And you've already have taught me that, Kundan, so thank you. But here you go. 3 paragraphs and we out. 3. Article reads, to hear this from the House Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, there won't be a deal on the debt ceiling without work requirements. Meaning, his caucus wants harsh new restrictions to be placed on needy recipients of social welfare programs, forcing them to secure jobs and submit proof of near full-time employment, just to remain eligible for things like food, aid, and health care. In other words, McCarthy is holding the economy hostage so that fewer poor Americans can have access to the country's already pantry welfare state. Or paltry, I should say. So, next one, it says, President Joe Biden seems to think so too. When asked over the weekend about this GOP red line, he re-upped his previous support for welfare reform from this time as senator by telling reporters, I voted for tougher aid programs that is in law now, but raising the work requirement age for Medi-Cal is a different story. This was a reference to his 1996 vote for Clinton-era legislation that Clinton bragged would end welfare as we know it, accomplished with the help of restrictive new work requirements. Biden suggests that he might be open to new restrictions to federal aid programs such as supplementary nutrition assistance program, food stamps, and temporary assistance for needy families, which is cash assistance for families, in compact with the GOP. He said that he was not open to restrictions on Medicaid, which Republicans also want. So it was a little chunky right there, but if y'all want to read more into this, the headline itself comes from Slate, and the headline reads, Biden is considering selling out poor Americans to get a debt ceiling deal, because the dollar is slowly, almost more, a little bit more rapidly losing its value. All right, let's keep it moving. Let me turn down and turn this up, actually. And let me check these comments before I get to the next one. It says, Chinese police with a fake police station was found in New York, and NYPD arrested them. It turns out CCP has such police stations in over 100 countries or something. Wow, interesting. Kremlin was bombed and Putin claimed it was an assassination attempt. Yeah, y'all, the war is still going on. And if I said that correctly, I don't know if I said that wrong, but it looks like Kremlin to me. If it's is wrong, you already know I'll be messing up on this stuff all the time. So, next one I got for y'all, I always still keep liking to bring it in rotation because it still continues to be a thing. But this one article comes from U.S. Today, and the headline reads, Severe COVID-19 is associated with accelerated aging. And this is a fact check, which I'm very interested. I still got to look back into the history when fact checking started to become a thing, especially with political parties and affiliations. So that's something on the side. But let's go ahead. So the claim they have, it says that COVID-19 vaccines speed up the aging process. I'm going to read 3 paragraphs and then their verdict. So let's go for it. Article reads, an April 25th post ended up saying, whoa, interesting. On April 25th, Instagram post shows a collage that features NFL player Damar Hamlin, Dr. Anthony Fauci, and a stormtrooper from Star Wars. The COVID shot speeds up the aging process within the human body, reads text included in the post. Therefore, those who are fully vaccinated will age faster than those who are not vaccinated and poses or possess age-related diseases way before their time. That's what this is going on. Their rating for it is false. And they said there's no evidence that COVID-19 vaccines speed up the aging process, an expert told U.S. Today. The same can be said for the virus. It can't be said for the virus it helps prevent. However, some researchers have found links between severe cases of COVID-19 and signs of accelerated aging. So, did y'all catch that? They say it's false. They said there's no evidence that COVID-19 speeds up the aging process. The same can't be said for the virus it helps prevent. So then it says some researchers have found links between severe cases of COVID-19 and signs of accelerated aging. So there's a bit of some playing around with, been going back and forth with the wording and how it's used. Again, y'all, when y'all read these articles too, always make sure you pay close attention to not only how it's written, but what the point they're trying to get across. Because sometimes it's on all of this mixed up information. They'll literally put in the quote unquote the answer, but then dilute it with just all the words around it. So you got to really pay attention. So I'm going to stop with this one here. If you want to read more about it, this comes from USA Today. And the headline reads, severe COVID-19 is associated with accelerated aging. Fact check. You can go and check it. I'm good. All right, let's see. Y'all are coming in with the comments. Much appreciated. So let's see. Yeah. By the way, liberal media made fun of ivermectin for the Rona, but now it's standard treatment in many countries, including India. Yes. Yes, it was such a whole debacle with all of this stuff. Seriously, they were, of course, getting on Joe Rogan about it. There's a lot of figures who came out and spoke about ivermectin. And again, we can tell, if you can't tell, the whole ploy, the plot, and the agenda behind a lot of that, and why people will be silenced for certain things that they're saying, because of the fact that they know that it had some type of effect that it was very helpful, and you see it's a standard. It's big business. I'm gonna put it there. Big business. There's these channels on YouTube that feature an artist song with an alternative intro where it plays the original sample and then mixes to the actual, so sometimes with an outro origin. Have you checked those out? I have not Not too sure. I have not done that, but I know who's doing this. No. And even the U.S. government finally admits it comes from Wuhan. That was a whole series in itself. That it just things weren't adding up. It weren't adding up. I knew for sure. It's just still not clear if it was a bioweapon or a lab leak, but it's fishy. CCP refuses an investigation. Yes, because the original documents were also destroyed. The Chinese government or wherever, again, YouTube, what y'all don't get on me. This is all from articles. That it was also that they deleted the original files when it came to the origins in the first outbreak of COVID or SARS, COVID SARS or SARS. I can't think of the name right now, y'all. Y'all help me out with it. But the first instance of COVID-19 is SARS, not the original Corona, but this next one SARS. They deleted all that information on the databases. Articles are written for a reason. I think it's probably true with all stresses on the body, mind, etc. Yes, because I think of it this way too. You got to take into consideration how much stuff you're putting into your body. Not only just the food that we eat, but also what we drink. If you do go to the doctor regularly, if you're also taking pills, you have other, medicines mixing. That's why I know a lot of these different doctors, you have to get your recommendations, and that's why they have all of the warnings on each of the labels, because there's things that should not be mixing different types of chemicals. And then if you do go get your shots, you're getting if you get 2, 3, 4 that you haven't gotten in a while, and then you get also a COVID shot, there's just so much mixing up in your body. And then for women in particular too, if you decide to be on the pill, or if you're doing I'm so terrible with a lot of this stuff. That's all I'm going to end up saying. But also it has a hormonal change on women very heavily too. So there's just too much concoctions and mixes in your body that it's not going to work. Yes, ivermectin is usually horse medicine, but in a microdose is an effective treatment, but liberal comedians like Colbert made fun of it as horse medicine. Yes. You ever read the hip hop history comic book series? I think I have one of them. I think I like the big version of it, but no, I haven't got to. It's saying, wow, they destroyed all that. Dang. Yeah, this was a while back. Thank you for this show and us talking about a lot of this stuff, but I remember there is articles I read on, I had to go back to the shows, that talked about the deleting the original files. The China government, they deleted all of that. But for me, I still say this, they can get mad, whatever it is. It was a lab leak for sure. You'd be like, how do you know? A lot of stuff is not adding up, and they're going back and forth, and eventually the truth is going to come to light. So yes. Right. Next article, I'm just going to read the headline, y'all, and I'm going to let y'all do the information on it. But it popped up, so I wanted to at least share it. This article comes from the Associated Press, and the headline reads, "Parents hope to keep Tennessee school shooters' dangerous and harmful writings secret." So a while back, you guys, in Nashville, Tennessee, there was a deadly shooting that took place in March, and it took the lives of 3 9-year-olds and 3 adults. So now there's some writings that was left. I'm not going to get into them, but if you want to know more about this and wondering why, again, the mass shooting rates is just rising, you check some of this stuff out. Again, this article comes from the Associated Press. Headline reads, "Parents hope to keep Tennessee school shooters' dangerous and harmful writings secret." All right. Next one. And this one also is coming from NPR. If my computer will not. Wow. That's a first and forever, y'all. So, real quick, I see y'all putting some stuff. Please put some more stuff in the comments, because now my computer just froze on me. This is a first in What's the Word Wednesday's history. So now I have to pull out my iPad. Oh, okay, never mind. It was trying to trick me. It's trying to play jokes right now. But now I'm really want to just pull out my iPad just in case if my computer will decide to shut down. They don't want to give us the news. They want to give us the news. But it's all good. I got it set up. Right. Ooh. Yep. My laptop is letting me know, y'all, it's about time that I get me a PC or get me a new update. But it's all good. The next one that I have for you guys, the next article I have, it's from NPR, and I know I don't say it's an opinion piece, but this is something that is coming up. And we've already talked about the effects and the harmful effects too of social media. But this article comes from NPR, and the headline reads, "Teens say social media is stressing them out. Here's how to help them." So I'm not going to read through it in particular. I'm not going to read through all of this. But just a conversation piece of how do you guys see this being prevalent for teens? Why is social media stressing them out? Again, y'all can put those down in the comments, but that's just a question to you. I'm not going to read it, but if you want to, you can go to NPR, and the headline reads, "Teens say social media is stressing them out. Here's how to help them." But yeah. So let's see. It's hard to get the right news from the U.S. sources. That's why I have been listening to Indian commentators lately. I might want to listen to Cuba, Nigerian, and also international news sources too now. Yes, Tennessee is such a mess. Freeze me. Mercury retrograde just ended 2 days ago, but maybe post shadow phase still going on. It might be. There's a lot of folks who were saying they were pretty tired and they were emotionally drained as well. So that it can definitely possibly be it. What's going on, Shinobi? Peace and love. Camden, good to see you in here. Much love. What's the word? So another one I got for y'all, and I'm just going to start just reading headlines now because I'm already past all of this. But speaking of, earlier we was talking about Kremlin. This is again from NPR, and the headline reads, "The Ukraine grain deal is extended 2 months, helping ease the global food crisis," which I keep on forgetting that we are really actually in a global food crisis. I just keep on forgetting. And I'm glad that a lot of this stuff, when I read it, it brings me back to reality. Because again, we can be in our lives and be so comfortable, and we can get complacent and forget that, yo, we have it good where we're at. But at any moment in time, we need to be ready, and you need to be prepared, because one of the worst things that can happen for you is you get too comfortable and you get so used to a way of living that when it's abruptly pulled from under you, you have no bearings, no standing, nowhere else to where else to go, especially if you didn't prepare yourself with the skills. So that's one of these here in the article. So if you want to read on it, again, this one comes from NPR, and the headline reads, "The Ukraine grain deal is extended 2 months, helping ease the global food crisis." Because the U.S. doesn't get all of their food from the U.S. They get it from all different places, imported and shipped. Because also we're having a seed shortage, and a lot of farmers are losing their jobs and not farming. A lot of farmland is not being used. So yes. Let's see. In real life communities, they just have to grow up in a pandemic and see destruction on screen 24/7. Yep. They need social and community time the way humans deserve it. Yes. U.S. pays to restock. Others nations are screwed. A lot of us. We seen a breakdown of a lot of infrastructure in many different places. So we just got to get it together. I don't know how we're going to get it together, but we need to get it together. Right. Other articles, just to highlight. Can politicians catch up with AI? There's been a lot of news and talk about artificial intelligence, especially with a lot of deep fakes. These artificial intelligence voice AI being able to use other people's voices, like prominent artists, just prominent figures. Again, the different faces, as well as being able to do videos with AI, there's so much versatility that's happening with AI that a lot of jobs that we've talked about years in the past, talking about they're not going to be a thing, is becoming a thing. So our cashiers, our frontline workers with like very, very just normal and everyday type of jobs, it's going to be going instant. After a while too, same thing with post work, post office, just anything that you can think of that's a very, no disrespect to the folks, but a very easy straight job. A lot of those are going to be outdone with AI. So that's something on there. A Michigan boy describes using a slingshot to stop his sister's kidnapping, which is very heroic. Again, all of this I'm reading is from NPR. Another one, Elizabeth Holmes loses her latest bid to avoid prison. I don't know what's going on with Elizabeth Holmes. I'm not too sure, but that's that there. In a historic step, strippers at an LA bar are poised to unionize. So unionism or some being unionized is happening. The faithful seek both crisis and opportunities as churches close across the country. That's something I didn't know I've been hearing about. And then let's see what Google said. If you haven't logged into your Google account over 2 years, it will be deleted. So if y'all haven't got into y'all's Google accounts, it's going to be deleted. I'm not surprised. And that's it. I'm not going to be reading anymore. So if y'all have any other news reports, please put them down. We are good for the news section. I don't want to keep y'all too long on this because I want to be able to get to the other topics for sure. And of course, before my computer decides to just X out on me. So as y'all are putting us down, let me see. I'm gonna get up in the comments and see what y'all talking about. See how y'all doing. I see y'all over there on Instagram. I see y'all on YouTube. I see y'all there watching later. Shouts out to y'all. Saying real quick. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, deep fakes are going to create even more manipulation than before. Woo! Yes. So many people are easily manipulated even with less high tech, just highly edited videos. Yes. And it's going to make it harder and harder, like you said, to discern what's real and what's not. We say we in a simulation. We say we are part of the Matrix. All these other analogies that we use. But it's to a point where it's extremely accurate. And now it'll be the only way for you to be able to tell that. And I know I got to speak with this in multiple different groups that I'm part of, is that you got to be able to delineate and tell the difference between the artificial and the human in it. So it has to have a human quality left in it, because if you see something that's extremely flawless, then yeah, it's a little weird. But it's getting to the point where even AI is mimicking those flaws, those human flaws. So when it really gets that down, oh yeah, we in a whole load of trouble. Post office has been screwed into their coffins for over 2 decades now. Yes, the reason why I say that too is because my mother works for the post office, so I'm a child of a post office worker, so I hear about this very often. And then when Trump was in office, sending out a deal for especially the United States Postal Service and providing funds for it to get them going again. But a lot of the systems that we've had previously before, the ways and means of how we used to do things now are changing because there's profit and efficiency versus, spending more loads of money and being able to save money. Saying, Elizabeth Holmes made $1 billion fraud claim to have invented a single blood test and can test for all diseases in one shot. Interesting. Okay. Deepfakes are going to make live theater performances more popular again. I'm sending out the energy for that to be the truth. Just thinking about how inundated we are with technology and being on social media, I want to see how we're going to grab the generations after us, because a lot of them are very in tune with it. Some of them even picked it up as they was a kid. So I want to see how they're going to grab the next generations and generations on their attention back into it. I think it will resurface, and I see that it might go into a cycle of how I see some stuff, or it's a saying, I don't know where from, if it is a Native American, if it's an African saying or philosophy, but every 3 generations, that third generation ends up becoming the decider of what the next generation, 3 generations are going to go through. So maybe it's going to take about 3 generations till finally a lot of this stuff comes back in. Of course, we'll still be doing it. A lot of millennials are still, we were on that cusp anyways. So maybe that might be the case. Hope so. We just have to learn to stay humble and not jump to conclusions. I feel it. Oh, she's a legend, yeah. What was it? United States Postal Service has to pay their taxes 7 years in advance. Sentenced to fail. It is. Right. I'm glad we got to go on and on with this one, but let's go ahead. We're going to move to the next topic, which the next topic we're going to be getting into is movies versus books. And y'all can come with y'all movies, your favorite movies and books. I don't have to look up definitions or do any of that. But before I can even get into it, of course, I got to get a disclaimer. As much as I love talking and speaking to the screen and just seeing y'all folks in the comments writing it down, I would love to have some of y'all on. If you do choose to come on, just know that you are waiving your right and that these are going to be on online platforms like social media as well as in Instagram and YouTube. So if you're comfortable with that, I'm just letting you know now. If not, you're more than welcome to still stay in the comments and share from there. But just have to give you my disclaimer and spiel so you don't feel like I'm trying to pull the wool over you. Yeah. So let's keep building, y'all. So again, the next topic for tonight we're going to get in and talk about is movies versus books. Now you're like, okay, specifically, what are we going to be talking about? What do you mean movies versus books? So for me to at least dive into it a little bit, and then we'll come out here and address it. As of late, I've been hearing a lot of people within my circle and just around, and some of the kids I'm surprised about, because I would be asking them, is the difference between movies and books and what they've noticed. If they went and saw a movie, what would they rank it? What would they give it a review? And all of this different and such. And if I were to give it a statistic or a percentage, I would say roughly about 75 to 80% of the students say that they would prefer the book over the movie. As well as people in my life would say the same thing, that they prefer the books over the movie. And most of the reasons why, of course, main reasons I hear why they would prefer the book over the movie is because there's not a lot of detail. They miss out on very important pieces that some people think is important, but folks who are making a movie is not as important, as well as it doesn't capture the same emotion and feel. So I just want to talk about, and let's get into, if you have some movies that you're like, yeah, I like the book better than the movie, or even the opposite, that you like the movie over the book. I want us to talk about it. I got a few that I'm going to go and talk about, and y'all can do and say the same thing. Ranging from childhood books, small books, as kid books, all the way up to some adult books, at least that I've gotten to see. And I'm very terrible when it comes to movies, because I'm not really a movie person unless you go and take me to the movie, or you sit with me and we watch a movie together. So I won't have as much to say when it comes to the movies. But let's see. I said, ooh, movies versus books. Oh, well, so many often claims the book was better. Yes, I'm telling you. Yes, and I still keep hearing that. There are some movies that have done justice and actually better than the book when it comes to the depiction of the story. But that is the clear consensus that I would keep hearing over and over again. So we're going to talk about some of those. Saying, are we talking about the movie versus the book version, or just movies versus books in general? Both. When I write this, is open-ended. It's just not, we want to stay here. It is open-ended. So it's still structured that way. We can talk about that for a minute and then talk about just movies and books. And we can tell the general, of course, pros and cons, like we will usually go through. Or we can just talk about, like, I didn't like the movie for this particular Harry Potter, but I enjoyed the book version of it. So I'm going to do that first spiel of things. And then after that, in general, we can talk about movies versus books. And for me, I already know which one I would necessarily go over. It would be books because I have so many other books. I have some hiding, of course, behind me. You're not going to see it. But for me, I would definitely be on the book side because I got a whole rip of books. Does that mean I read all of the books? No. But I still have them for references. But yeah, say yeah, especially for big books, movies leave out a lot of detail. Yeah, books seem to give your imagination to envision how it looks to you. Yes, and that's probably the powerful point that I think of. Y'all already get into it with the book is that they can be as descriptive as they want, but at the same time, those descriptions can still leave room for your imagination to fill it in. So one author that I can think of that does a really great job at describing, and at a point for me it was very annoying, was Nathaniel Hawthorne. There was I forgot what off the top of my head, I forgot what book in particular. I know it was not. I know he didn't write Scarlet Letter or any of those. But there was a book that Nathaniel Hawthorne wrote, and at least for like 3-4 pages, if not more, this man is describing a door, but he's also describing all the intricacies within the door, whether if it's the knob, whether if it's how it's shaped. And he went on for almost like 3 or 4 pages talking about this door. Like, how much more description can you give? And if I'm wrong for that, or if I'm incorrect, anybody, y'all can also correct me on that. But when I read that back in high school, I was just like, yo, when is he gonna stop talking about this door and his doorknob? Like, I already got it. Like, you gave me enough description. I know what it is. Like, you telling your whole life story. It's very similar to when someone will go to a art gallery and it could be something as simple as just a few paint splatters. No disrespect to the artist, and a person is just giving out this long, drawn out thesis and life story about what they see in this picture or this painting, and just describing it in just extreme detail. And you're kind of like, I get the point where you're driving. It's like, now you're just adding all of that extra fluff. Like, again, another example is if any of y'all ever went to graduate school and y'all having to write papers or read peer reviewed reports, you understand how much fluff and how much words they use to try to describe something as simple as maybe even water. But they go through and have pages and pages on it and talking about specifics on what H2O is, and using very big dictionary SAT words that some of y'all, again, that's within only the collegiate acronym or acumen and just usage of words, and not just common verbiage, or what we say common vernacular. I'm over here spitting out some words like that right now. But I'm gonna get back into my spiel, but y'all are going in on the comments, so let me continue. But I like both the movie Arrival and the written short story is based on The Story of Your Life by Ted Chiang. I think I actually have that book. I just brought that book. Is it the one that has the blue? It's almost like a sky. Like, it's a, yeah, I have it. It's somewhere back over there. I know I keep pointing over here. I use my hands, y'all. I like to get involved. That's how I speak. But yeah, I had that book back over there. I haven't got to read it yet. Neither is better, just different. But this is a rare exception. That's what I'm talking about. Oof. I feels on it. It has a lot to do with the census. Yeah, that's legit. Hello, Charles Dickens writes similarly. Yes, and I actually have a list of some books I was going to go through and just say some of them. What? Great Expectations is one of them, I think, by Charles Dickens. Like, just like literally so much stuff. Let me see. I got to make sure that I'm saying that correctly, because I actually have Great Expectations, because I wanted to start somewhere. But no, we keep it. You guys are going in right now. It says, yeah, he says, yeah, the blue sky cover. Yep, see, I knew it. Yo, what's going on? Sincerely Notes the Truth, a.k.a. Read Notes. It's here. It's not an illusion. You can look him in his eyes. It's all real if you believe me. But I'm just playing, y'all. But what's the word, my G? It was good to see you in here. And we talking about movies versus books. And I was literally, everybody's going in right now, getting the just the rundown of it before I could even talk about some stuff. But for me, one example that I can think of that I liked, the book, or honestly, this one is actually a different one. I'm kind of cheating right here, y'all. I'm cheating just a little bit, because there are books on it, But at the same time, there is a movie version of it, and there's also the animated series. And it's been coming up for me and the folks I've talked about is I for sure liked the book and the animated series of Avatar: The Last Airbender versus the Night M. Shyamalan version of The Last Airbender. The Last Airbender, with all disrespect, was atrocious. It was terrible. All the revisions that Night M. Shyamalan did to it, besides, the only credit I would give him for that movie is the logic behind each element and understanding that some of the elements you would have to have it there presently to use it. So I got that. But everything else from there, atrocious. When I was in the movie theater with my cousin watching this, there was so many complaints throughout the movie, not only of the pronunciation of the characters' names, but just the scenery. It was just bad. It was so bad. Like, can't say anything else. It was so bad. This is an outlier from our other examples, but this is such an outlier because it was so bad. It really was. Even at the end, there was no standing applause. It was more complaining at the end of the movie when it was done versus nobody clapped. That's how bad it was. I could hear people in the background saying his name is Aang. His name is Sokka. It was bad. But that's one example, but I said it can be an outlier because it's not only just the books in the series, which were really good, but also the anime, or not the anime, but the animation, the cartoon of it was really good. But the movie, straight in the garbage. Straight in the garbage. Goodness. Said, yeah, he's laughing. Yeah, never mind. Just chilling, got back home. Boom. The movie was, yes, it was. So I prefer the animated series, but it's actually highly problematic in many ways. Please enlighten me on that, Kundan, because there is some things that you can say that are culturally appropriated from there. And again, that's not of my culture, but from the outside looking in on some stuff, I appreciated concepts that were in Avatar: The Last Airbender that was taught, or at least conveyed, where again it gives people, if they're interested, to really go in and do the research or go and look into the stuff if they're fully interested in it. If not, just please enlighten me. Said Aragon was worse. I used to love reading those ones. I don't even know what happened to mine. I was getting every single one, but I didn't get to watch Aragon the movie. So I'm taking your word on it. Yeah. If you saying it was worse than The Last Airbender, I don't even know if I want to watch it. Like, I don't even think so. I don't know. And saying, nah, it's really not. Just need the right people and creative minds. Yeah, it says, but that's movie versus animated series, right? Not books. So, Kundan, I said that one was an outlier right now. The reason why is because it just popped into my head. So, yes, you're correct. That's why I'm saying it had three to it. It's a movie. There's also the books, but then there's also was the animated series. So that's why I said that one's an outlier. So that one, yeah, don't necessarily count, but I just brought it up just for that case. One of the books that for me it was actually pretty even for, and the movie itself too, was actually George Orwell's 1984. I actually liked both the movie and the book. I think there was a good retelling on both ends of course there is a lot more detail in the book of what happened, but also in the movie it still conveyed the message and got it across. So for me, that's one of the book and movies that it was fair across the board. That I was like, I don't like either more than the other one. I actually like both of them. Which is 1984. I like both of them. What's going on, Demetrius? I see you in here. What's the word? What's the word? It's not problematic at all. It says Arjuna was a very long list of all the problems with Avatar and its sequel, Zora? Oh, Cora, you mean Cora in her Medium article. You send me that later so I can actually look into that. I wasn't too much of I didn't like the ending of Legends of Korra. That was me. I didn't really like the ending. Definitely still love the animation, still love the story and how it took us, but it's just the way that they did the ending. it left a bad taste in my mouth, and that's just my opinion. It's not fact, it's just my opinion. You're laughing at that. Yes. You need a non-Western mind to see the issues with Avatar and especially Korra. He's like Zora. Like you trying to mix Zoro and Korra together, get Zora? Yeah. I mean that's fine. Again, not everybody is gonna fully understand everyone's culture and be able to pick a piece apart, like exactly what's wrong with that. So yeah, we just have to read into it. But at the same time, I will say this: then if it's displayed in a way that is extremely problematic, then it honestly we wouldn't be able to have a lot of talk about like what really makes either the animated series or any type of medium of any information from a different culture. We've been able even to talk about it. Yeah, said Cora went through it. Yeah, Cora did. So I think honestly, at the same time, I think it's great that it's out there so that people can know what it's about. But I can get your point when speaking about that. You gotta understand it from a non-Western and other perspective. I get it. I think it's cool that people know about it. I think it just helps opens the door. It's really people's intentions too. I always still think about it from that way. If people intend to do harm with what they're being seen on there, if they're trying to create stereotypes and all this other stuff that go along with it, then I for sure would say I get you, because it's always going to be that small percentage. Anything that anybody does from any culture, there's always a small percentage that's going to take those things and run with them out of context versus the intention of understanding like or understanding that yes, okay, this is something dope. I got much joy watching this, and this is what it meant to me. And if they want to look more into it, then that's when they'll go and do that. If not, some of them just pass on to the next thing, just living their life. But yeah, it says, yeah, the appropriation is part of it, but other issues too. But we getting off track. This is still all about it. This is still within look, all of this stuff here when it comes to books versus movies. Like I'm not even tripping wherever we're going with this, because this still all in the reign of stuff. Because again, we talking about books too. There's all different authors. It's just not U.S. authors. There's authors of all colors, creeds, cultures all around too. So, and some of them, of course, not saying that they got movies, but some of them are in the works. So, it's still on there. Said the villains in Core was on Black Air Force mode all day. They didn't even care. Yes, they did not care. What, that meme from, I forgot what football coach, but it's like, we do not care. They definitely did not care. I got much joy watching it too. It's nice entertainment, but looking at it later was with a new critical eye can also teach us something. Yes, always, always. I know some of y'all go back and y'all watch or even read books that y'all used to as a child, and you see it now. Some of you cringe. Some of you are like, that didn't age well. There's a lot of different stuff. Or you be like, ooh, this could have been taken out of extreme context. So I get you on that. I get you on that. So here, that was a beast. Did not give a care at all. What's going on? I see you in here, my brother, John. Much love. What's the word? Hopefully you enjoying that Burger King. So, another one that, for me, actually was the opposite when it came to I liked the movie more than the book. And this is one of my childhood favorite movies. Not looking at it from a whole critical eye, but just from themes and lessons that I got from it was Holes. That Shia LaBeouf, all of those folks that was in there. So I had all of that happen. I liked that book. I keep on forgetting. How can I forget who wrote the book? But I'm going to say it because I'm going to need to put it right here. But hopefully my laptop doesn't start tripping out. Written by, it's a Holes author. If you guys know the Holes author, please tell me. But I like the movie Holes better than the book. Yes. I like the book, but the movie, the movie to me was somewhere. So yeah, so Louis Akar, yeah, Louis, yeah. Like I really, really enjoyed the movie, and partly because of how it was portrayed and how it was seen and how it was shown, and it was to me it was a nice blend of themes of friendship, a nice blend of course, not even saying like a coming of age, but really showing the system when it comes to kids. Of course, it got the happy endings because, making it Disney and all this other different stuff. But just the realities of stuff. It was very entertaining for me. And then of course it had a lot of the soundtrack in the movie was very catchy. So a lot of that is what I liked about the movie and why I liked the movie more than the book. The book was great. I did book reports. I did collages for classes on the book, but the movie still to me to this day is one of my favorite movies, especially from a quote unquote from a Disney, if not per se that there. And I was about to get into it, but I see you already. You say, Tan Hat Gang, you already know. Yes, definitely didn't age well, or sometimes I finally understood. Yes. And you have it right there, Kundan. This was one of them that I had to at least touch upon, and I had gave a bit of a snippet of an example, but this is one of them I think of too. It says, yeah, Harry Potter definitely didn't age well, for example. Yes. Said Whopper Wednesdays. Oh my goodness. Not just because of the author J.K. Rowling being transphobic, but now people are noticing the racism and yeah. How can I not say it? Semitism, even in the books themselves. Hoes, the book, yes. Now you capping Harry Potter aged. All still good, all of them. Ender's Game. OMG, poor Ender's Game. That's one I did not watch or even read the book. I remember people was getting into Ender's Game as well as the Hunger Games. Did not watch, did not read. Y'all sharing, y'all letting me know. Those is ones I definitely did not. But yeah, the Harry Potter books, there's always still always a big question mark on my head with the Harry Potter books. But I am not a avid reader of Harry Potter. I was as a kid. I used to brag about being able to read, I think it was the Daily Hollows. It was the blue one, the blue covered one. It was like 1,000 and some pages being like, oh yeah, I read this in 7-8 days. Like a little under 2 weeks. And I'm just like bragging about that as a fourth, fifth grader talking about I read this so quickly. But yeah, I haven't read fully into all of them, so I don't know all the extra stuff that go into it. But yeah. And since the game came out too, it's gaining a lot more traction. And folks, also, is it Universal Studios? Y'all can quote me if I'm wrong, but I know one of these theme parks actually just built like a whole Harry Potter like ride or or attraction. So a lot of that's been running back in Steam too. And it said Wheel of Time too. Too much reinforcement of gender binary. The Amazon show is so bad too. And saying I really think I'm not even environment, but it was good. They came out with that. They have an anime? They have an anime for it? I didn't even know that anime for that. Yes, it said you too on Harry Potter was a beast. Yes. You said you too on Harry Potter was a beast. Said I didn't even read nor watch Ender's Game. Yes. Ender's Game, bad at. Kids playing Tron in space to fight big bug aliens. Yes. No doubt it's iconic, but they got nothing to do with it. Yes. Yeah, it's dropping soon. Oh, it's dropping soon. Oh, I'm like, they had an anime? I'm like, I didn't even know about that. That's pretty, hey, what, at this point, what I'm also starting to notice too, and you guys can, or you all can tell me if you're getting this sense too. What I'm starting to notice is a lot of not only movie creators, but TV shows and people just writing books in general. The narrative and I think it just has to do with the culture and the era that we're in right now are making a shift in not only what they're writing about, but also what in some ways sells. And some movie production companies are doing extremely well, and other ones are tanking horribly. But that's what I'm starting to notice, because I started seeing a lot of remakes, at least the last 4 or 5 years, and I'm just like, is there any other new ideas that are going to be coming out, or just more sequels on top of sequels on top of sequels, turning trilogies into 4 movie 5 parts? It's just a continuation of a story. Some of them are getting it right, others are not. We're not going to jump into anime, because anime is a whole nother different thing, but really right back into some books and versus the movies. So say 1984 for me was the median. I like both the book and the movie. Hose, I like the movie more than the book. And then the outlier that I had for me was Avatar, and I said I literally liked both the animated series and the books versus the movie. The movie was atrocious, as it should have been. It is atrocious the way that it was popped out. But what else? What else? I'm going down this line. Yeah, Charles Dickens did do Great Expectations. I remember some of that. But what's another one? Y'all pop it in here. I know I had a few. I was still thinking of a few other ones. I'm not an avid reader of Stephen King either. My mom is. She likes the books more than any of some of the Stephen King movies. I know they did. I think Night M. Shyamalan did one of them. Was that The Village? Was that a Stephen King book? I don't know if I'm correct. And I know I keep on getting on Night M. Shyamalan. It's because I've had friends who literally look into a lot of those directors. Just not only Night M. Shyamalan, but also, what's it called? Who else? Not only Steven Spielberg. Did Steven Spielberg do it? I'm tripping. Quentin Tarantino was another one. It's one of my friend's favorite movie directors. It's Quentin Tarantino. Because I know you think of Kill Bill. You think of, I was going to say Old Country for No Man. I might be wrong. But again, y'all, I'm telling y'all right now, I'm terrible at movies. So like, y'all help me out. I'm terrible at movies. But I'm just going off of the ones that I know for sure. But see, y'all are going in. I'm letting y'all do that. This is the Harry Potter battle right now. Y'all go for it. I'm going to read through all of it. But yes. Said Muppets Christmas Carol, A Christmas Carol. Oh yeah, and all the other movies, or I should say the books that get cartoon flips in movies. So like A Christmas Carol that gets done in different ways. Like even the 8 Crazy Nights. I know I'm not straying too far away from it, but also people's renditions or their attempts at a regular story like A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, but then flipped in a different way. I think of 8 Crazy Nights with Adam Sandler in that one, as well as I think of the cartoon ones that they did with Scrooge and stuff with like DuckTales and things of that sort. Again, don't quote me on this. This is my kid brain going back and recalling this stuff, but also people taking their own jumps at remaking a book and making it either kid friendly or in that state in time modernized away from the story itself, which I see especially for books that are a bit older, which now you're like, okay, what do you mean gonna be older? In my particular case, when I think of books that were honestly made before the 1990s, a lot of the language in the book didn't make, for some people, not for all, didn't make the reading experience or the reader have too much of an enjoyable experience, not only because of what the words that are being written, but I'm that type of person, if I don't know what a word is in the book, I'm like trying to have a dictionary right next to me. At that time, when now you can just look it up on your phone, find a word real quick, but literally having to flip through a dictionary just so I can figure out what this word means instead of not always using context clues, it kind of took away from the reading. And you would literally, some people would just then be like, you know what, I'm just going to go to it and I just like the movie better than the book because just the frustration in reading. But that's just my perspective on it. But another one that I can think of when it comes to a book that I liked reading more than the movie. And I would even say a lot of the other Disney movies. Because I know there's a Lion King book. But what other books? I just read books, and some of them don't even have movies to them. So yeah, don't know a word, make it up. So you just reading through it, and it's like, oh yeah, this word serendipitous. You're like, hmm. So you be like, oh, it just means this, and just keep reading. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I would just say forget it, and I didn't want to read the word, and I just kept going. But me as a kid, I was a stubborn reader. Like I wanted to make sure I knew what I was reading. Even if I was trying to speed read through stuff, like I wanted to know. Oh, another series that I liked reading a lot too. And I'm very curious. I don't even think it had a movie in particular, but I liked reading Artemis Fowl, the Artemis Fowl series. So all the different colors. Like the main one I remember is the golden cover. The golden cover was my favorite one from Artemis Fowl, as well as Lemony Snicket in the series of unfortunate events. Yes, I'm bringing it back to kid stuff because you can see where my mind is at right now. But I only got to see. I think the first movie went through the first 3 or 4 books in the Lemony Snicket series, and it was decent. It was definitely decent. I still like the books more than that movie for Lemony Snicket series of unfortunate events. I like the books more, but the movie was very close. But that as a kid, and he said, "Yeah, the Dresden Files too." Yes, yes. I only read probably the first 2 for the Dresden Files because I was so heavily into that one. I was also heavily into the Magic Tree House as a kid. But all right, fast forward going into adult because I'm like going back and forth there in between is adult. Another one. I know they ended up doing one for Death of a Salesman. Willie Loman. Death of a Salesman. I'm trying to remember. Let's see the author, and you're like, these are all like U.S. books. Unfortunately, when you in the system in schools, we're not reading a lot of different books from other authors in different countries. It's more so all around U.S. authors. So, like a lot of my stuff as a kid, as a teen, is coming from a lot of these authors. Now that I'm older, of course, I can look for all the different places. Death the Salesman, Death of a Salesman, Death of a Salesman. And nowadays, you're trying to get people to be salespeople going door to door doing that. Oh my goodness! Like, don't even start, even try. Like trying to come sell you a washer and dryer and all of that. Death of a Salesman. Arthur Miller. Arthur Miller. The play. It also this is another outlier. There also was a Broadway play for it too. But that's a whole nother setup too. So it's all that's there too. Shouts out to Face Fair in the building. What's going on, brother? What's the word? As well as Smooth 007. Smooth Tea 007. I had me some tea earlier. Some sweet tea for sure. But then also dry. Ain't gonna get into all of that shit. The Man in the Iron Mask. Yo, the Man in the Iron Mask. Yes, the Man in the Iron Mask. I like it as the Man in the Orange Mask. Like orange, yes. That's been a minute. The Man in the Iron Mask. Yes, but I'm about to put that down. Yeah. God, just keep going. Keep giving more. Keep giving more. It says, "Oh yes, good idea to diversify international authors too." Yes, because again, it's not only limited to our perspective. Again, the U.S. is not the only place in this world. You have all around the world. Everybody has their perspective on. It could be the same issue, the same problems, whether if it's relationships, whether if it's just a way of living, whether if it's very complicated scenarios. Like everybody has theirs on it. The U.S. is not the teller of all. I'm telling you that now. For sure, not the teller of all. Said Grapes of Wrath. Grapes of Wrath. I hear that. Yes. And see y'all get into it. What else? What else did I read in high school? I read what? I read Hamlet, of course. A lot of the Shakespearean stuff. What else? Macbeth. What else were we reading in school? I also read The Pearl. Why was I about to say by Jack Nicholson? But it's not Jack Nicholson. But I read The Pearl. And I still have that book too. I have The Pearl. Also have A Wrinkle in Time. They did a movie for A Wrinkle in Time. I didn't really like the movie for A Wrinkle in Time. I like the book so much more. That's another example. See, as we going through it, thank y'all because y'all really making me tap back into it. I really did not like the Wrinkle in Time movie. I like the book so much more. And one of the boys that was in the book, his name also was my real name in real life. So like that's why I also kind of like the book a lot too. They also talked about the concept of different mediums and what it meant to be tessering, or like what a tesseract was, being able moving from one point to another point. So I thought that was pretty cool. But the Pearl author, she's like, I'm blanking on authors, but see, that's why it's always great to have technology by you. John Steinbeck, like, come on now, John Steinbeck. There was another book that John Steinbeck also wrote that I thought was pretty cool. I know this didn't have a movie, but it's one of the books that I liked also as a kid. Was was it The White Fang by Jack London? I think it was The White Fang. Or not. It's like The White Wolf. The White Fang. They say Jack London. I think I have good memory, y'all. Yeah. White Fang by Jack London. That was one of the books I liked, but it didn't have a movie. I'm just throwing in some stuff. Now at this point, it's just throwing books in there. Huckleberry Finn, Beowulf, yes. Yes. What else? Yes, is exactly the global minority, yes. I read almost all of Shakespeare books in high school. Wow. Yes, they did a movie for A Wrinkle in Time. Yeah, I didn't like the movie. I didn't like the movie. I liked the book a lot more than the movie. And that's the other thing too, is sometimes, especially later on, and since a lot of these books have been out for a very long time, and then some of them then later on finally get a movie, but during that time they get different versions or editions of the book that start to also take out pieces from the original book. And I know that ends up having an effect also on how people either see the book versus the movie, because there's multiple books or multiple versions of that one book versus the movie. So there might be a version that somebody reads from that movie that they like, but it was like version or edition like 7 out of the other like first original edition, and they didn't like it. My point is, after so many other editions, sometimes the details start to disappear because they're either shortening the story or they're trying to, again, like I said before, because of the language and the verbiage and words that were used. Some of them are words that are not even used now in our language, or at least in English, I just should say. So again, if y'all also talk about books and movies in different languages, there's that too. I'm not going to go into it. I only right now at this point fluently speak English. I'm currently learning Spanish, and then I will be working on possibly Swahili, but it depends because there's so many other ones I want to learn too. But right now, only talking English only. Sorry for my international folks as well too, English only. But I think a lot of editions also lose their meanings and also connections because of the fact that they're cutting stuff. That's how some people feel about, and I'm not going to go too religious in this too, but that's how some people feel about when it comes to the Bible. There's like hundreds of different editions of the Bible that's just been changed and just renewed, pieces taken out because of one affiliation to this affiliation. So sometimes I feel like that just ends up confusing things versus just going ahead and showing movies, the Passion of the Christ, all this other stuff. But like I said, I'm not going to take it that way. I said, how many books are there? In A Wrinkle in Time, sometimes the editions only change the front cover. They don't always change the context or the contents of the book, but some of them do. So I know for Wrinkle in Time, I only know it was only one movie because there was only one book written in Wrinkle in Time. But there's multiple different editions for sure. Let me think of another book that I liked better than a movie. See, a lot of them I keep going back to as a kid. If y'all starting to notice that I used to watch more movies as a kid than I do now. or it's just for me. There's not that many books coming out that often that's good with the movie. Oh yeah, for my Twilight folks, I didn't see any of that, so I don't know if any of my any folks that's in here, either now or later, y'all tell me about Twilight. Like I was never on any of that stuff, but was the movie better than the books? Are the movies better than the books? Or were the books better than the movies, or were they just about around the same? Because I didn't get into any of that in particular. I wasn't interested for me. I'm not too much of a, I don't even say fan, but avidly, I'm not. I really wasn't into the whole werewolves and vampire type stuff. That's just not me. And I just, that could just be, again, that's just a preference, but like it didn't capture me at all. Now you're making me think of Frankenstein too. Yes, I'm not going randomly everywhere. Thinking of Frankenstein. I don't even really remember reading Frankenstein all the way through, but the movie is cool. The movie is cool. I don't know if they did an updated version, but the movie itself too, it was cool. But let's see, it says it's like when George Lucas made tweaks to the original trilogy. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes when not only directors but authors, and most of the time it's always, of course, the book first before translating into the movie. I know there's movies that's been made and then a book was made around them, but I think that's extremely rare. It's extremely rare. Or they came out at the same time. I don't have any examples. It's just something that popped into my mind. But the consensus for me is, especially the ones that I say that were at least balanced, besides of course in 1984, is I'm noticing a lot more books that were at least nonfiction had to like balance for me, like okay, like I like both the book and the movie, versus a lot of the books that were fiction and were stories, because again the imagination and being able to have at least details to figure it out versus then seeing those full details made me like the books better than the movie, because of the fact that everybody can read it and interpret it and find their own picture of what they're reading versus this is what they stated in the movie. So it makes it hard for folks to like the movie if that's not the depiction that they thought the movie could look like. Yeah. So y'all are going in there. So yeah. So y'all talking about the books. I appreciate that. If y'all got some more, please throw them down in there. But now you're talking about like books and movies just in general. Where would y'all stand? Again, for me, when it comes to books versus movies, I'm avid on the books. Sometimes I don't even be reading the books, but I just grab it so I can have the information that later on I'm like, you know what? I had the book. Now I want to dig into it and actually read it and get the information out from it and go from there. So I definitely am on the books. When it comes to watching movies, yeah, me wanting to sit down and just and watch it, like it takes a lot. Like I really have to be interested, fully invested and interested in a movie for me to sit down and watch it. So the only movies that I do get motivated to want to go watch and see, a lot of them have to be in the realm of martial arts and somewhat action. I don't even really go watch like comedy and other things like that, like very fully. But a lot of martial arts, like I will sit down and watch just because love the not only the choreography around it, but just in a sense the name, the martial art is art in itself. Watching it versus like romance comedies, scary movie, like scary. Yeah, me and scary movies is like whatever. Like I don't get much of that thrill watching scary movies like that for sure. But it's not me. It's not my cup of tea. It's not my flavor that I like. But let's see. Yo,
Hello.
going on, Kundan? Good to see
Yo,
you. What's the word?
what's the word?
Yes.
Yeah, Notes was asking how many books are there for Shakespeare. So I don't remember because
Oh,
first of all, it's not a series. It's a bunch of plays. So it's
yes.
not like yeah. So like I wouldn't even know how many plays he wrote. And also
How
he wrote
many
a bunch of
plays?
poems as well. He wrote a
Let's
bunch of
see.
poems as well, and I think even the plays are very like poetic. Like
Yeah.
you know.
So
So
this is just real quick off of a quick Google search because again, it can always be refuted. But it says Shakespeare's plays. Shakespeare's plays are a canon of approximately 39 dramatic works written.
right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the exact number of plays, as well as the tragedy, the histories, and all that otherwise,
And the comedies, yeah,
yeah, there's people are still debating it to this day. So we don't have a
right.
consensus on that one. So
It's not
roughly around at
even
least
clear
39.
who Shakespeare actually was.
So, ooh, I'm
Yeah,
glad we're talking about
yeah,
this. So
yeah.
there was a link on an article, a few articles I read that they were saying that there was a theory or their whole pickings together that Shakespeare actually wasn't even a person. That was just the pen name.
Right,
They're
exactly.
saying that
Uh-huh.
Shakespeare was this is they were saying. They were saying that Shakespeare, the person who was embodying Shakespeare, was Sir Francis Bacon. That was one of the
Mm.
people that they were saying that they were linking to that could
Oh
have been
yeah,
him
I
doing
heard that
all of those
theory
writings.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So again, I ain't got all the true information and stuff on it, but that's one person. And the very interesting thing around also Sir Francis Bacon, not only that he also has that affiliation to him per se, but also he was a part of the not only the Templar Knights, but quote unquote he's a part of Illuminati and all of those, the Masons, Freemasons and things of that sort. So all of that's in there. But yeah, so for you
Yeah.
notes, now you know. Oh, okay, yeah, 39 of them. At least approximately 39.
Hmm.
But let's see. Who else we got jumping in here? Yes. You still
Yep.
with us?
So yeah,
Okay,
and,
perfect.
and
Sorry about that. It's dark in the room because I had to get the
Oh,
light
you
off
good?
to
It's
catch
all
the next
good.
sleep.
You can show your profile picture right there. You good. I don't mind. Like y'all don't necessarily always, have to be on and show yourself. I just appreciate y'all being on here and going on here. But Kundan, what else did you want to add to if
But
it's books versus movies or like specifically the movie version of a book versus the book itself?
I got one. I got. Oh, sorry.
yeah, I think usually the book is better unless the like what I've noticed is that when the director is trying to like actually like imitate the book, I
Yeah,
think um I think maybe that might be when it
he's
goes
Diamond.
bad when it tries to like accurately uh although then again, fans are like, oh, you didn't follow the book. That's another complaint if they do that. But what I
Yes,
liked about Arrival was that the director, as far as based on the story of your life, I think he changed the ending or something. Or he changed an important part of it. I don't know which part. I don't remember.
yes,
But I've read both the book and I've seen the movie, and he did change one important part, and he actually got an okay and an agreement with the author that is it okay to change. He was like sure,
yes,
and so but it made sense for the movie. Like it would not have made sense like if he had stuck to the original for a movie for the movie screen. So like things like
yes,
that, and so you need a very like what's the word? Very I guess discerning director like to make those like right changes. To see like what is better for the audiovisual medium, right? Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
And I think that's very important that you bring that up because that collaboration is what's also important to make it an overall great product, especially if the author okays it and then it's right with the director,
Mhm.
and they see that working in unison. That's where I know that people still have, of course, their gripes with, oh, you didn't put every detail, or why'd you change this part up. There's a lot more common ground that way. So then some people be like, you know what?
Right.
Yeah, I kind of
Well,
like the book, and I'm kind of glad that they did a little something different with the movie because I can see why it wouldn't make no sense.
exactly. Yeah, as a fan of the book, I mean, the book is a bunch of other short stories as well,
Yeah,
but that particular short
a particular short story, and then you go.
story, you're right. I actually don't mind the change that he made. I actually liked the movie as much as the book. Like for me, it's like neither is better. It's just different.
Understandable. Yes,
Mhm.
yes. All right, go for it. Notes.
I got one. So, this is my thing. So it's not an anime one, and manga and anime. But they made a live action of it,
Mm.
which was Ghost in the Shell. Now, um, a lot of people, some people gave shit for it, and I know FaZe gave me shit for it, and Shinobi, but they gave me shit for it saying it was a trash movie. But to me, it really wasn't. You know what I mean? The the guy who wrote it, who created Ghost in the Shell, you know, he was on set the whole time, and he the one that actually pre-approved everything. So Ghost in the Shell from the first
Yeah.
anime that I saw of it, um, I don't know if she was white or Asian, but I don't want it, but she was always changing
Mm.
bodies. And if you watch one of the episodes and stuff like that, there's a story um, that this old lady
Yeah.
told the girl her story, and pretty
I
much
could just see him
what do
yelling
you
that.
say?
That's why.
That movie is trash.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I know he nailed it, but hey, that's his opinion though. To
Yes.
me, the movie was good. You know what I mean? The shit was gangster. Um, yeah, and you're right. The show is incredible. The movie was dope too. I honestly
Oh, it's a
think
movie
Scarlett
based on the
Johansson did
show.
Yes.
a good
Okay.
job at it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's based
Um,
on an anime. It's based on an anime, but
Wait,
a lot
which
of people
movie is
liked it.
this?
She
Ghost
did her
in the
damn
Shell.
thing, and
Oh, good. The one with
Ghost in the
Scarlett
Shell. Yeah.
Johansson. Yeah, Ghost in the Shell. Yeah.
hmm Yeah, but the cop and the movie, the live action movie, he's actually the
Ah.
creator of Ghost in the Shell. So so yeah, so like he was on set the whole
Oh,
time. He the one that actually pre-approved everything. A lot of people said, "Oh, it was whitewashing," but it really wasn't because she's able to put her soul, whatever, mind, whatever,
Yeah.
into different shells, which is called yeah. So
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I was
that'll
seeing
be
in
it
here.
for the
I want to put Phase's points out there real quick. But he said, and this is the general consensus. Like we've talked about it. I don't know if it's just because it's just written in people's minds. But he said book slash writings is usually better to him. With a lot of, again, I think that's just the tipping scale. Like everybody's mostly on that side. He said, heck, even fan fiction based on movies and shows are fire. And then he just going in on that on you, man.
King Actress is trash. Scarlett
Yes.
Johansson.
he said
Oh,
no the actress is trash. Oh well, shit. I think she did a good job.
yes.
I thought it was dope.
Hey,
I liked it. You know.
it is there. Whatever may be the case. But I appreciate that example. Y'all got any more? Oh shoot! Shouts out to Basics OC. My goodness, much love. What's going on? What's the word?
I know, man. I know.
Not on him.
I know.
That's
All
why
over
we
these too,
here
man.
though. Look, we just in here talking at this point. Like I want it. Like it's still going to take its building where we are right now. But I just thought it'd be cool to talk about books and movies because a lot of movies been coming out and I've been surprised to see more people have been reading books, which I would think you got your phone and the stuff here. So,
You you know what I would say? Because you said a point about this. Like you said something about something changing. What I will say is this: a lot of the movie directors now are running out
Mhm.
of ideas. So I think it's like time for like video games to come to
ooh,
to come
hmm.
like shows and stuff like that. And you know, and they can do it and they can do it. So like I haven't seen it, but they said the Last of Us TV show was fucking
Mm.
phenomenal. And
Oh, the game, yes.
I played the video game.
Wait,
Yeah,
it was a TV show?
yeah. So no. It's turned into a
Oh,
TV show. It's
gotcha.
on HBO Max.
Okay. I mean, look it. Like I said, there's not like I said, but there's nothing new under the sun on how a lot of stuff is coming out now. But they need to start reinventing the real when it comes to a lot of this stuff. Man, shouts out to my brother, Little John in here, because he already knows Little John. Yeah. This is a brother who's actually be on sets for different shows and stuff. So this is my man who peeks into this stuff. He also is on there helping them direct, edit, and all the show, as well as he's actually made some sneak peeks, appearances in some of these shows. So shouts
What
out to my
about
brother
when they
John.
make a what about when they make a TV series based on the book instead of a movie? Like
Mm, trying to,
because
well, for
I think
example,
some books would make more sense for a TV series because there's so much detail.
yes.
So I think in some cases that's a wise decision rather than making a movie, you know.
I agree to that too. I agree to that too. And what it will do is anticipate people to want to watch more of it, while at the same time give not only the author but the directors time to come to agreements on stuff, and then also find a way to like really roll it out there. So I think of also too, not just the entertainment factor, but for some people too, is are you going to build a cult following behind this, as well as is this something that you can be it can be talked about for years and years to come. And when they talk about some of the greatest shows made into movies or from books to shows and stuff like that, are you going to be in that conversation?
Yeah.
But I mean, right now, again, I'm a terrible person when it comes to I don't be watching TV shows like that. I still haven't seen like The Wire, the one that everybody right now has been talking about, Snowfall. I have not watched anything of Snowfall, but so many people are giving it such great reviews and saying it's almost better than the Wire. Like there's so many shows that are out there doing that. One of my friends was just telling me about a show called Beef and how well that show is rolling out so far, and it's like in different parts and series. Almost, I'm not gonna say it's reminiscent of it, but it's it's like almost like a well R. Kelly. No, we ain't gonna be out there. Don't cancel me for saying R. Kelly right now. But the Trapped in the Closet whole idea was very dope too. It's like the song into each one playing down into another
Prodigal
piece of
son.
that story put all together but split into different parts was a very very genius way of showing a story too. But of course, I'm not like again. If you're gonna try to cancel me, YouTube and Instagram, relax. It's just an example. The Sopranos. Yes, I know The Sopranos. Guess what? I didn't watch The Sopranos, but I have so many friends around me. Yes, Sopranos.
I
Yes,
don't know if
especially
either.
especially their iconic ending. Like it just abruptly ends. Like that's like one thing. Even though I didn't watch The Sopranos, I know that's what happens at the end of the shows. It's like literally right when they're getting to a part, it just cuts to black. That's it. It cuts to black. Like who was doing that? Yeah.
You know what's a good show that got canceled? I don't know if people seen this, but it was on
Hmm.
CW, then it went to Fox.
Prodigal
Prodigal
Son.
Son.
Mm-mm.
So Prodigal Son is pretty his so
Yes. Okay. I'm again. It's probably something I'm gonna put in there. It said my yes.
yeah,
Prodigal Son.
Prodigal Son. So Prodigal Son, he was his
Okay. Okay.
Man, it's fucking dope. So his dad was a serial killer but a doctor, and he was yeah, bro. It's hard to explain, but it's
Mm.
that show. That show right there. It shouldn't have been on Fox. The shit they were showing, it shouldn't have been on Fox. I don't know who passed it, but it was dope. It was that shit kept you on your toes.
Okay. All right. Y'all said say it again so everybody know too. Say it again. Prodigal Son. And
Prodigal
shouts out to
son.
Diamond in here as well too.
Hmm.
My favorite book that got me reading more. Donald Goings, if I'm saying this right. Goings. Um, help with survival and kept me in gains. And last, nothing out today or tomorrow will be better than The Wire. I hear it. I said, bro, I was so mad, at The Sopranos, but it made so much sense. Yes. Hey, can you still hear me or hear me? Yeah,
Oh,
no.
you talking about when
Come
the
back
screen
in.
went
Come back
black?
in. Couldn't hear you. Well, you're talking about this at Sopranos. So, like I said, I didn't watch The Sopranos, but I knew the iconic ending of like the shows, like or each like episode. It just cuts. It's just straight to black. That's it. I can see how that could piss people off for sure. They're just like straight, like, come
People
on
was
now.
upset.
But back in the realm of movies versus books, or books versus movies, however you wanted to see it. Did you have any other points you wanted to talk about, notes on it, or anything else you wanted to say about it? On
Prodigal
books
son.
versus a book that you thought was better than the movie, or a movie that you thought was better than the book, or just you like movies more in general or
Um,
books more in general.
okay, I can say there's an anime. Um, the Death Note. Um, I actually like the manga
Mm.
better than the anime, and the reason why is um when I moved back at home for a while,
Yeah.
I didn't have no cable or anything, so I used to go. So I used I used to go to the library, and I used to check out books and stuff, and that's how I got
Yeah.
got into reading. I'm reading a lot more, and I got like the black edition. It was like fucking like thick and shit like that. So to me, that's a lot better than yeah.
That's what, right
I
when I
haven't
saw
read the
that
Green
Diamond,
Mile
you
book.
making fun of me, but that's why I said earlier I'm terrible when it comes to TV shows and movies. So I already came into this already saying I am no expert or have not much expertise in this stuff. That's why when I said books versus movies, I read more books than I watch of movies, aka also TV shows. So yeah, you can laugh at me about that. But the Green Mile book, actually I didn't read the Green Mile book, but I saw the movie itself. I like the movie, but it always getting, yeah. It made you, the ending. They did a good job. They did a good job with the ending. It made you really feel what happened to the homie. But yes,
Um, what else? I got a list, man. Animatrix,
yeah,
the Animatrix that was dope.
Hey,
you're
Um,
back.
it's not a lot.
I'm
Perfect.
back.
We can hear you. We can hear you. You all good. All right, continue notes. Go ahead. The Animatrix,
Yeah, the Animatrix was dope. That doesn't get a lot of credit.
which I need to. That's another thing I will say. What happens to, especially movies that have trilogies or like ongoing parts to them, is that it's very it's a very difficult hill to climb to keep people interested, especially if you you got a home run on the first movie, because then people start making comparisons to the next one, saying that I don't think it's as best as that. Lupe Fiasco, I love one of his songs. It's called Mean and Vicious. He literally makes an example of that in one of his songs. He literally raps his first verse, and then his second verse is basically the first few bars is talking about how the first verse is going to be picking on the second verse because of the fact that how can you be better than the first now because you going second. It's like it's a hard act to follow. And what ends up happening with, and this is just from my perspective, this is what happens with a lot of those series is that small little pieces of stuff like that, like the Animatrix and things that go under the veil and stuff. People miss out on that stuff, so that's why it gets overlooked. It's because it's like under there, or people have lost interest.
True, and also, Disney just came out with Star Wars
Hmm.
Vision, the second season.
Mm.
It's fucking beautiful, man. It was. I love all the different studios came together and this, and a lot of people are giving it hate, and I'm like, bro, like it wasn't. It's not bad. Like it's good. Like, appreciate the animation. Appreciate these talented people
Yes.
who's even bringing us this. And I also feel like too, a lot of people are just spoiled when it comes. A lot of people they
Yes.
don't know what's a good story anymore. It's all about flashiness and not a lot of and it's all about flashiness now. Or how many kills can I get, or how many cool shots can I get? Like they don't draw you in anymore. There's no
And this is
dialogue.
what I will say, and I can't speak for all of you that's here and everyone that's watching. But for me, that is one of the tellings of the culture and the age that we're in right now. We are in the information overload age. So a lot of this stuff has to be able to catch people's attentions like this. So a lot of folks are not going to relish in, or they're not going to fully be invested. Again, I'm just talking from mine. Some people are, but the majority of people that are watching are buying into some of this stuff. They're not going to fully invest themselves into a story, and some of the authors are getting discouraged, or some of the directors are getting discouraged to make some of this stuff because the vision that they want to put out there knows that it's not going to sell as well as if they go about doing small cuts here and there and stuff like this. So it's really telling of the consumer is changing that outlook in the arena for a lot of this stuff. And that's why they're just going fast paced, like get this done, get that done, because they're trying to say what appeals to people. Again, what sells? Because you can have a great idea, you can have it marketed the right way, but if it just don't hit with the people or those that you're giving it to the consumers, then it's not going to hit. And that's the sad part. He said that's how Donald is. He writes like watching the television. Well, he was in his own TV show, all of that stuff. So it just makes sense. He is a TV celebrity before having to be the president and all this other different stuff. If you're talking about the Donald I think you're talking about. But yeah. All right. Y'all have any other ones before I move to the last topic for tonight? We good?
Uh-uh.
All right.
Yeah.
Speaking of imagination
Uh-huh.
and stories and trying to get it and put it into people, the last one for tonight, the last topic for tonight, we're gonna talk about how imagination and stories predict the path you take. And I know Kundan, the storyteller, great storyteller that Kundan is, has so much definitely to speak on this. And before I even get to it, for all my folks who know, who's been here, who's been riding with me from the first season till now, you already know where I'm about to go with this. I'm about to tell y'all. When it comes to these questions and these topics, I do this stuff on purpose. They're just not randomly thought up just because. All of this all ties in together. So if you're wondering why are you talking about imagination and stories, look at the previous one before. And that's the reason why it's there. But other than that, we're getting into how imagination and stories predict the path you take. So in general, I'm gonna throw it out there. You can answer it however both of y'all want to, everybody else in the comments. But when we think of imagination and we think of stories, like I know Kunden, you can definitely give brief backgrounds of storytelling and stuff like that. You can definitely go for that. But how can that or those two be a determining factor of how you're going to live your life or find your path in life? Of using
Mm-hmm.
imagination and also either reading stories or telling stories.
Mm-hmm. Or even or even believing certain stories, right? I mean, by believing, I mean like consciously or even subconsciously, certain stories may be running your life.
Mm,
And if you can identify those stories,
yes.
then maybe you can see why your life has been the way it is, and you can predict in that way how it will continue to be the same way if you believe the same stories, right? And if you want to change it, you're not predicting it, you're literally creating a new future, right? By
Mm,
believing in a new story,
yes.
right? Because story is not how you escape reality. It's literally how you navigate reality. It's
Mm,
how your brain, your mind thinks.
mm,
We think in stories. We think in narratives. You know, that's why I always see propaganda as literally is a narrative warfare, right? It's a
mm,
form of war.
mm.
Hmm.
That's pretty powerful to really
And
think about that because I'm not going to even say up to now, but
mhm,
that's been my perspective on what stories really are. It's just like not only just a retelling of what you envision, but the main motive of it being to escape from something. When people tell you that you're reading into a story or reading a book and that you're going into, of course, you're into this new space and place that you're getting away from the reality of where you are now. Where more so, it's like you said, it's more so retelling of not only what's happening around you right now, but how you can go moving forward, not what you're trying to get away from.
mhm.
So,
Yeah, like in the old days, right? This is deep into our evolution. Too. In the old days,
yes.
when after fire was first discovered, for example, the person who taught it to the next person, they were not teaching, the mechanics or the physics or things like that, right? It's more about they would tell a story about how fire was first discovered, and then all the physics and the mechanics, everything is built into the story.
Mm, mm, yes. And I am gonna put you on the spot real quick, Kundan. I think it's always just important that because we've talked about it numerous times and it's been on other shows, but for those folks who is just popping in just to be popping in, can you give that example of being able to pair the story along with the truth together so that people can get both of them together, get the medicine and get the entertainment at the same time? I remember the analogy or the story that you told for people to wrap that together. Can you tell that for the people one more time?
Oh yeah, was it about reading the Parable series? Like,
Not only the parable series,
yeah,
but just the way about being
but
able to give people the medicine, but with, of course,
oh right.
the yes, but through
Oh,
story
you mean
form.
you're talking about the open loop and the closed
No,
loops, right?
go for
Like,
it.
um, yeah, that's one way to look at it. So as a starting point, I want to define what a story is, right? There's a difference between plot and story,
Mm,
and a lot of people confuse the two. They're very different, right? So a plot is like this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, right? That's plot, right? Sometimes a plot can be a little bit more complicated. This happened, but then that happened, right? Uh,
yes.
but that is plot. Story goes into more of the why, right? This happened, and it also goes into more of the internal dialogue of the main character, right? And that's usually in a main character. Sometimes there's a group of main characters, right?
Yes.
And and so the story is a journey of how the main character overcomes either a very deep, long-held fear or misbelief, or they call it a misbelief. Sometimes it's known as a limiting belief.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also known as a sacred flaw, right?
Mm.
So it's literally a depiction, a documentation of how the main character overcomes their that thing that's holding them back, right? That fear, that misbelief, in order to get their deepest desire, right? So it's a struggle. So there's a tug of war. There's a struggle between the deepest desire and the
Mm,
deepest, fear, right? And now, how I get into open loops and closed loops is that, I learned about that definition from Lisa Crown, right? And then I learned about open loops and closed loops from NLP, right?
okay.
And then there are even like more advanced things like nested loops and things like that, which can be used to manipulate people in very advanced ways, right? So an open loop is basically suspense, right? Something that creates intrigue, curiosity, and tension at the same time. That's why every the ending of every episode in a Netflix series ends with a cliffhanger, right?
Yes.
That's called an open loop, right?
Yes.
That's why you keep watching, Orange is the New Black or Breaking Bad or or even The Good Place, right? Now, and that's called an open loop. But even during the show,
Yes.
there's a series of open loops and closed loops because after you open the loop, you have to reward the viewer to keep for keeping watching, right?
Yes.
So you have to reward the viewer with a closing by closing the loop, which is basically giving that closure, that dopamine hit, right?
Yes.
So so the medicine is that depiction of like the reason why we read stories is because subconsciously we are trying to learn from the character how they overcame this thing that's holding them back because we want to know it in our own lives and we learn through story,
Yes.
right? The key thing is, and this is where I started creating my own model because the Western model doesn't take into account systemic oppression, right?
Mm,
Where I realized that it's not just about the fear and the desire, it's also about how much support the main character has.
mm,
And so if the main character needs just the right amount of support to close those loops, they cannot do it without that support, right?
yes.
So I define a story as a series of very like balanced, open and closed loop, right? When I define it in a purely logical way, I even drew a graph for it, and I define oppression as just a series of open
Mm,
loops, right? Or even a series of whenever there are far more open loops than closed loops, that's oppression,
got you.
right? Where there's not enough support to close those loops. That's why I define oppression as just a series of open loops because it means that there's no support for this main character, right? And depending on how many open loops there is almost like an inverse ratio between that and the support, right? So it will be
Yes.
different for each person, that ratio. So yeah, so
Hmm.
and how you tell the story, right? This way, even my poems I write in a very story-like fashion where I would fearlessly, courageously go deep dive into the problem that I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I would try to lift people back up at the end and end it with an open loop, right? The only time because I feel responsible, I feel like I don't want people to feel yeah, to feel like emotionally vomited upon, things like that, right? Where I don't want to leave people hanging. But there's an exception. Sometimes, oh, you are spinning. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, we
No.
back. I
Oh,
think
you're
I
back.
think my Wi-Fi
Okay,
just
we're
got
back.
kicked off right now, but we're
Okay,
good.
we're back. So,
And then there it goes right there.
and the reason why I do it,
Yes.
right, why I ended with a broken, like why when I did my allegory on the fiat currency
Yes.
system, I deliberately left it with a
Mm. Okay.
actually what's happening in the world today, right? It's what's happening in this country, especially, right? And I want people to complete the story in their own lives, in their own communities, and be the torchbearer to finish off what the story started, right? To because now they realize the problem, and I want them to solve that problem. So so occasionally I would do that, right? And that's important too. But the point is to be very purposeful, intentional about why you write the way you
Yes.
write. That's the power of telling a story, right? Where you can literally lead people on a journey the way you want it, right? And so yeah, as far as how this has actually helped me practically in my life, it's an example. If I grew up in a military dictatorship where my grandfather's assets. It was also a very socialist or very Marxist dictatorship, right? So
Yes.
my grandfather's assets and businesses were seized in a process called nationalization, right, by the
Mm.
military. And and I wasn't even born when this happened, by the way, but I grew up with these stories,
Yes.
right? Speaking of stories, right? And I actually experienced the 1988 democracy uprising where protesters were shot on the street, right, by the military, and there was blood on the streets and stuff
Mm.
like that. And again, I didn't actually see those things because I was very
Yes.
young. I was 7, but I could still feel, the fear around me, and I think I could even hear the gunshots sometimes from my house, etc.
Mm.
So I grew up with this belief, especially because my grandfather's assets were seized, uh, that money can be gone or will be gone anytime. So what's the point, right?
Yes.
So I ended up not saving money and just spending as much as I make, right? And, and but after reading the Parable series, where the main character went through so much worse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just it's a good story, but it's so like harsh, right? You've read it too. We went through a book club together. So it's such a harsh, story,
Yeah.
very terrible, and all sorts of things happen. There's arson, there's rape, all sorts of things, bad things, and the whole community is being burned to the ground.
Yeah.
And yet, this main character had this grit inside her where she kept rebuilding. She kept rebuilding an entire community, right? And it just was kind of inspiring, but it was also like, oh, like it occurred to me for the first time, oh, I can just, even if I lose everything, I can rebuild,
Yes.
right? And that community is key to that. Well, it's not just about rebuilding on your own. You do need help against support, right? But yeah, that you can rebuild, like, and it's such a simple concept, but I never got it until I read that story, right?
Yes. And for those who are not too sure what
Yeah.
Kundan is speaking on, we're talking about the Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler, but also the whole series,
Also, the whole series there, it's a duology. It's a parable of the sower and then the
the
parable of the
talents.
talents.
Yeah.
Like, mhm.
But I'm glad that you also made that point as well as you see how prominent you use it in your writing to definitely educate. And that's where I see the power in our poets and the writers. It's not always the politicians and the folks who's up there in higher, positions that quote unquote have that particular power, but just how powerful words can be because of not only what it can imbue people to do or look up and learn and come from, but it can empower in the sense of a forward movement because we know, like you said, from what you learn from needing to rebuild and taking a community. Once you got a community of folks and people that's all in for a concept, idea, or whatever it may be, whether it's revolution being televised or say so, whatever it is, a lot of those who sparked that was not only just because they were revolutionaries, but also not only being idealists and realists at that same time, but it's in the words and how they spoke it and how they said it. And now you're making me really want to start do my own research later on down the line and go through a lot of these great figures throughout throughout history and actually looking to see if they were following either a closed or the open loop when it comes to telling of what we're going to do next and finding the solution, all of this stuff. I know it's probably already the answer there, but now I'm just curious, it
Right,
popped into my head.
right. I think effective politicians, for good or for bad,
Yes.
do are storytellers themselves, right? And even if you look at political slogans,
Yeah.
a political slogan that's effective is like basically the shortest story possible, right?
Mm.
So whether you look at Obama's "Yes We Can" or even Trump's "Make America Great Again,"
Yes.
there is a story inside that slogan, in each of those slogans, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There is a narrative behind it, right? And then there is also an audience in mind, right? And you can see like whether it's Obama or Trump, like they had completely different audiences in mind, right? And it had a different story, right?
Yes.
Like Yes We Can is more like forward looking, right? Whereas Make Great Again is more like looking at the past. It's like tapping into nostalgia, right?
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Again, and I see you in there, Diamond. Appreciate you. Shots out. Yeah, a lot of this stuff, a lot of this stuff. Even if you are reading into it or you're not reading into it, and you're just being able to have these perspectives, is very important because we got to look at now as these generations are moving forward, what narratives, what stories are being told, as well as the having that ability to use your imagination to come up with creative ways to not only solve things, but also to create and come into your own as a person. That's why I know that we are having a lot of these identity crises because of the fact that we're not allowing kids, students, people to not only just explore whether if it's on the spectrum of things, but being able to just take their time to know themselves, see what is coming to their mind to help them understand that and facilitate an environment for that to happen versus how vicious of an environment that we're in now. And I'm not, and I know at least for me when I was growing up, it was for me it was a really good mix because yes, there was stuff that I liked, there was stuff that I was learning, and I was still in an environment where I will learn these things, whether if it's from my imagination of what I'm saying and what I'm doing, but I would also meet reality checks, whether if it was quote unquote being bullied for certain things. But it almost made me want to stand firm in what I was and who I was at that point in time to continue to create and be like, you know what? Nah, I still really like this idea. It's a great idea going forward. I don't care if people making fun of me about this idea or this particular story that I've quote unquote brought into to help me find my open loop answer to stuff. But what I'm trying to get at really more so is how I see little room for kids to be very imaginative nowadays, and it's more so again just teaching to what's already in the book. And I'm speaking U.S. If I could go out and see it around, in other words, I would say a lot of places that are still in their natural state, especially of either in tribes or communities that have been untouched by a lot of technology and other things of that sort, they still have those roots of being able to really let this kids and society just build upon itself through exploration versus stopping that exploration and that growth for them to come into them being that person or that being that they're in. So I'm saying there's lack of imagination for a lot of the kids because of the fact of we have this cookie cutter way things are, whether you can speak about the binary or whatever boxes that we put each other in without fully exploring what those boxes actually mean.
Yeah,
But yeah, and shouts out to Big
yeah,
Flutter in
and
the building.
especially in a big flutter. Yeah, I want to touch on that and expand on it a little bit because for some reason, as we were watching this live, I felt this call, so inspired to grab this book on myself. It's called The Black Swan
Oh,
by Nassim Nicholas Taleb, and the subtitle is The Impact of the Highly Improbable,
mm,
right? And and basically, the premise of the book is that a black swan is an event, positive or negative, that is deemed improbable yet causes massive consequences,
mm,
right? In this groundbreaking and prophetic book, Nassim Taleb shows in a playful way that black swan events explain almost everything about our world, and yet we, especially the experts, are blind to them, right? And so here's, and I turned to the page. That's a funny thing. I turned to the page that I had marked years ago that actually deals with this topic, right? It's called imagination, right?
Synchronicity.
So, yeah. In fact, the title, the subtitle of that page is the bottom line,
Mm,
right? So, which is from the prologue, so it's basically the bottom line of this book, right?
yes.
The beast in this book is not the beast meaning the black swan, right? The beast in this book is not just the bell curve and the self-deceiving statistician, nor the platonified scholar who needs theories to fool himself with.
Yeah.
It is the drive to focus on what makes sense to us. Living on our planet today requires a lot more imagination than we are made to have.
Mm,
We lack imagination and repress it in others, right? And he's basically saying that because we lack imagination, we don't see these black swan events that are seemingly highly improbable, and yet they run the world, right? And these events are not. And he's saying even in the final paragraph of that section, he says, "I stick my neck out and make a claim against many of our habits of thought
yeah.
that our world is dominated by the extreme, the unknown, and the very improbable according to our current knowledge."
Mm-hmm.
And according to our current knowledge, that's key.
Mm,
And all the while we spend our time engaged in small talk, focusing on the known and the repeated. This implies the need to use the extreme event as a starting point and not treat it as an exception to be pushed under the rug. I also make the bolder and more annoying claim that in spite of our progress and the growth and knowledge, or perhaps because of such progress and growth, the future will be increasingly less predictable, while both human nature and social science seems to conspire to hide the idea from us.
are you sure this wasn't written in 2023? No.
Right? Yeah, it's fire. Let me see the publication date because I think it's quite an old book. Yeah, it was published 2007, 16 years,
Yes.
16 years ago.
But and I will definitely say I highly agree with that last part for sure. When it comes to a lot of
Mhm.
this stuff being less more easily predictable to me because of the fact that even us when we was talking about AI and just the advancement of technologies, us losing out the important pieces and the not only just the elephants in the room, but also the mice, also the small dark edges that we don't see, all those minuscule details that people would not necessarily pay attention to, but that having a huge impact. But since we are not paying attention to that, we lose that sense. We lose all of those pieces to that story that could have been extremely impactful, but we didn't because we learned this way, and this is the only way that we can look at it. There's no other ways to look at anything else. I'm gonna keep my head straight forward and not worry about what's happening on my peripherals, knowing that I could actually save myself if I see on my peripherals that there's something coming on this side. I can duck, move, wherever it may end up being, or black swan it out the way. But I'm just only going straight forward.
Exactly. In fact, they've done many experiments which show that sometimes we don't even see like what's right in front of us, depending on what we've been told to focus on, right? For example, I went to a seminar one time, and you might have heard of this experiment too, where they showed us a video of two teams playing basketball, right?
Yes.
And they told us to focus on the opponent's strengths, right? And then after the game,
Ah.
they asked us, so who saw the big black gorilla? And we were like, what? So they showed us the video again, and not only was there this person in a big black gorilla suit,
Yes.
that person even like thumped their chest, and they stood in front of the screen, thumped their chest, and walked up, and nobody saw it.
Yes. Yes. If it's not an object within your reality, is it even there?
Exactly.
I
exactly.
remember you told me this
So like with
example.
things like the narrative, so this is why there's narrative warfare and why it's effective, right? Because even with things like COVID, etc., right, we were told to focus on certain things, and so we missed certain things, like the fact that this thing came from Wuhan, right?
Yes.
Or the things about ivermectin, right? Because we were
Yeah.
told that only stupid people or people who are to be made fun of, so they can ivermectin as treatment for COVID, right? And now it's just a standard
Yeah.
treatment, right? And now I think it's the U.S. Department of Energy or like one of the key government departments finally admitted it does come from
Yeah.
Wuhan, right?
Yeah.
And yet
Yeah. A lot.
like there's so many unanswered questions, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I this one said once Indian I started watching some Indian commentators and she was saying like she never called it COVID-19. She always called it a way. And she wasn't being racist, she called it the
Yeah.
Wuhan virus.
Ah. Yes.
Still is not allowing an investigation. Questions makes it very
Yo. No, you still there? Just listening in. Probably done. Went on to the next. But can y'all hear us clearly? Because I know we was is going in and out on some stuff. I don't know what's happening with it. Okay, I'm just making sure
Yeah,
because
I
I'm be
can
like,
hear
bro,
you.
it's lagging out. Uh, yeah, yeah. Try to come back in, Kundan. Try to come back in. I wanted you to finish that point so we can. We want to continue on, but let's make sure. Shouts out to my brother, 93 till Thriftfinity in the building. Peace and love to you, man. What's the word? Welcome every and all people here. What's the word?
hello,
There we
what's the
go.
word?
Yeah, it literally was kicking. It not
Oh,
only
it's like
kicked you out, but it's like I'm like, what's happening?
oh,
Yeah,
it's like
but no,
you're not
continue,
liking
continue.
this part of the conversation.
Yeah, it's trying to
um,
keep it away
yeah.
from it. Yeah,
So yeah, it's there's still so many unanswered questions around that, right? And we didn't have the imagination, right? And we didn't have the right focus because we were told to focus on something else, right? Just like those people watching that, video of two teams playing basketball, right?
yes,
Yeah, we were told you know, it's just some, random virus or, who knows where it comes from, you know.
yes,
So we were told to focus away. We were told that if you say it's from Wuhan, you are either racist or an idiotic conspiracy theorist, right? So, yeah.
yes. Uh, Now, just from your point, it's making me move further to wrapping it back in with not only movies but stories and those narratives. And you made me
Mm-hmm.
think of the birth of a nation.
Mm-hmm.
And where I'm going with this is for those folks who know me or they don't, I'm just letting you know now. I love doing flips on words. And when I start noticing words have other words within them, I start to break them down in my head. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking at the word imagination. You have both an image and you also have the word nation in it. And if you can get people within a community or wherever else to not only
Imagine a
not
nation,
believe
right?
in your image, believe in your image, you have a whole nation backing that image. You have the power for that to become a reality, which is extremely powerful in itself. Yeah, imagine a nation. Yes, 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 yes. My boy Fred Wizard jumping in here real quick for sure. But it makes you it made me start thinking about that in that sense. Of course, this man, yo, been such a long
Yo,
time. What's the
yo, yo,
word?
yo.
Yo, what up, A.D.V.I.S.S?
Nothing much, living and learning, my G. What's good with you?
What's up, Kundan?
What's up?
So,
What's up?
We're talking
so
about imagination and how
Imagination,
we can
image in the
focus.
nation.
How, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I heard that. So, what comes to mind when I think about that? I forgot what I was talking about the other day, too. Pretty much, and I was telling the homie, if I have this vision and then someone along the way comes and has the same vision or a similar vision, pretty much like the more people you surround yourself with on the same vision, the more it comes into fruition.
yes,
What you call it manifesting, right? And like I remember when I started like it happens from the smallest way to the biggest. Like, but when I was doing shows, like I remember like being there and like what the fuck, like this, like having that one moment. I'm pretty sure we've all had that, right? Like at a show or at anything when once the project was done or or currently happening, like having that moment where you're like, whoa, like this was in my, like I saw this, like this was, and that to me is wizard shit. Like that to me is like this was in my head and now we're here,
yeah,
everybody's here, and like it happened, and like you got to believe it the same way like a salesman, right? Like any position that you are in sales, like it's only better when you believe in what you're selling. Because if you're selling some shit that you don't really believe in, I mean, you could kind of get away with it, but it's bullshit. But if you believe in what you're selling, like I was pretty much selling an idea to all the people that I was inviting to the party, because the party doesn't exist yet, right? Or the
yeah,
show doesn't exist in my head. And like I remember even catching myself on that trip where it's like, it's how you sell it. I could have been like, oh, we're doing something. It's gonna be kind of cool. Like I don't know. Like you start talking down on it, like you ain't giving that life. That's the type of water you're planning giving to that seed. But if you tell people like, yo, and I believed it was gonna be the dopest fucking shit. So I was selling it like that, telling everybody all excited, and then we're at the show, and that's what they say about manifesting, right? If you can already start creating that feeling,
yes,
then it comes quicker to your reality, and then reading books on it at the same time. I was just like, yo, like this is real shit. So yeah,
yeah.
man, like imagination, and we're living in a scary time right now because
Go Scorpio.
you don't need to be imaginative anymore. Like your brain is constantly getting hit, your mind with like they're taking care of that for you. They're giving you the dopamine instead of you having to make it yourself. Instead of you
Mm,
having to make that dream, they're already selling it to you when you're a little kid. That's fucking scares me. Anyways, yeah.
yes, man. Brett, you done said a lot within saying a little at the same time. But yes, brother, it definitely is. That's why
Yeah, I
on
mean,
here,
this platform
uh,
is a dopamine factory,
yes,
This platform itself is a dopamine factory.
and it's just in essence all of that just adds together the fuel and the fire. And what I tell people, and I continue to say this, even when I talk to the students, I do keep saying students, yes, because I work with students. I tell them this all the time, that we're not just this body. We are
Word.
energy, frequency, vibration, and the soul. How we translate and we talk on this realm of existence that we're in is through energy, frequency, and vibration. So if you can get somebody not only to feel what you saying or doing or back what you're going to put out there, I'll equate it to, and I've done this example before. I'll equate it to how sports, that adrenaline, how folks feel on the court when they're having such a great day, whether if it's basketball or football, where they're literally feel like they're just in this particular God mode. Is that because of not only the people chanting and giving that person the energy, that person has learned how to take that in and use it as fuel. So when you have
Word.
people all backing you, they're all behind you, and you feel that, and you know that that's there, you feel invincible. That's why as kids, and how much younger we were, there are certain things that we will go out and do, and we will, if we went as a group and stuff, sometimes you will feel like you could almost accomplish anything, not just because
Bro,
you had a
that's
lot of
the
people.
fucking shit right there, bro. I saw this video where this dude tells everybody like start clapping, and then his little baby starts clapping, right? And bro, that like you literally like, and I remember like even doing this shit with my little cousins. And I'm never gonna forget that day because it tripped me out. I was like this. Not only was it a cool moment, but like looking back, like it's a trip. Like with what you're saying right now, I remember my grandpa and my uncle like laughed at something, and then like my uncle just had a little baby, and then he starts laughing, the little baby, and at the time, and then we start laughing. My brother starts laughing. Everybody just started laughing, and dude, like for no reason, and the baby was just cracking up. We never seen him laugh like that, you know. And it was a trip because he didn't understand the joke. You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't understand the fucking joke, but he's already laughing. He starts laughing the same way, like everybody's fucking mad and crying and screaming. The baby's gonna fucking do the same shit,
Yeah.
and they don't know why. And the thing about when I
Well,
start to think about the sickest times in my life, it's always been with a group of people. Like that's why, like regardless of your religious beliefs, things like going to church and shit, that's a huge part of people's lives and a meaningful part because everybody's there for a common purpose and reason, and they have retreats and like, and sports. You brought up sports. They're all together, trying to win the tournament. Like they're there for that same
the
thing. They're putting the
camaraderie.
same energy behind it. You know what I'm saying? Like same with rocking a show, and like Wu Tang wouldn't have been Wu Tang if it wasn't for 8, 9 members together. You know what I mean? Like it's the impact. It happens because of all the energy behind it with everybody coming to a common goal. I said, bro, we're tribal people. We're come
Yes.
from villages. Like we work together. That's why it's a trip where, like, I told people this other day. How much of us actually know our neighbors and have a conversation with them on the daily? Not many, bro. Like I can only name these 4 neighbors around me, but that's because I go out of my way to, But I can ask my family, my pad, and they just stick to their own daily routines. They don't fucking know any neighbor out here, And it's like that to me trips me out, bro, because the power in numbers.
Yes. Yes. And it just goes to, again, it goes to show why not only would you said imagine a nation, but why not promoting this within, especially in the US, within the school curriculums and letting kids actually critically think and be able to have these thought processes on their own instead of just feeding them the thought process that they should have. It and I know there's examples within government that this is all of course of a setup, because the more that you have, you dumb the you weaken the masses that particular way, it stops them from having not only the messiahs but also revolutions from happening. It's like basically, if I can give
Yes,
another
yeah.
example, it's like you have a garden, and even if you decide, okay, this side of the garden, I don't want to end up giving any type of water, not giving it any type of treatment or any of this stuff. It's just going to be where it is.
Oh,
Because
I see where you're going.
because this side of the garden, actually, I want this one to shine. And I know if I put time into this one, it would outshine that one. So I'm going to let this one not get what it needs so that it can grow, because if it does, it's going to outshine the other one, and it's going to lose its beauty because the other one outshines it. But the funny thing is, when you do stuff
All the
like
same
that,
soil.
yes, but
Mhm.
It's all the same fucking, Yeah, man. Word up. No,
That
and
reminds me though of there's a systems fallacy. If you understand, if you study systemic thinking or system science, there's a systems fallacy called success to the successful,
yes,
and the flip side of that is failure to the failed, right? So the idea is
mm,
that uh, when a particular thing has been given uh, enough resources and the other thing has not been given enough resources, the
yes,
thing that's been given more resources is more turns out to be more successful, right? And then what happens then is that the manager starts thinking, oh, this this person is performing well, so let's give them even more resources, right? And because this
mm,
person must be really smart or strong or whatever, right? And then the person becomes even more successful. But then the other person has weaker results because they were not given enough resources, and they were like, oh, let's take away their resources because performing well, right?
Yes.
So it becomes this vicious cycle, right? Where at the end you don't even know anymore whether that person was actually smart or whether that person was actually weak or stupid or whatever, because
Mm.
it's a combination of confirmation bias with the system's flaw, right? And so the key is to really be able to differentiate between like actual ability and the systemic flaw that's in the system that's causing this,
I've seen that
and
shit,
that's
and,
called,
and there's a lot of
yeah.
movies where that shows. Like, you
Mhm.
reminded me of like Freedom Riders. There's an episode in Atlanta where it's like the same thing. Like you, it's like backwards. Like
Mm.
the school system's fucked up. Instead of giving them more help, you take away to give to the other ones that are already succeeding. It's
Right,
weird.
exactly. Yeah.
It's a fucking trip. But that definitely is the. It's a problem that people have recognized for a while, and I saw it going through school too and shit. But then it's just a trip. And like I remember when I was younger, I used to like trip on the teachers and oh they don't get. But then it's like whoa, like also look at what they're getting paid too. Like so then like I was tripping on my own motivation for school and my peers. But then it's like teachers are. What about their motivation to even come to school and do this when it's like, like it's as fucked up for them too. And it's like, well, who do we go talk to? And it was never like I was always trying to put the blame on teachers, but that's like like right here, the real problem was going to the board and like trying to figure that out. And then you're talking about like your city and then like the amount of money that goes into the schools, right? But that should always
Yeah.
trip me out for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And look, and
So,
this all started from not only a narrative or a way people express what is being said, but all from here. All of this started
mhm,
from right here. And it just
Yeah.
became what it was. And once you've again got people to buy into this stuff, fully be engrossed into it, that's what created this. Because at any moment in time, if somehow the universe decided tomorrow that all of us decide, you know what, we not paying taxes, we not going to our jobs, and we're not doing any of this stuff. I know my neighbor next door knows how to grow plants. I know my neighbor
Yeah.
next door already is an electrician and all of this stuff. We
Bro, you're
could,
talking about like some revolutionary. That's actually Karis one lecture where he talks about how we agree on that as a reality, and therefore it is one. He talks about how people that go to prison. For some people it's like fuck. My life's over. I'm in prison. Like and that just it stops them from living. There's
mm-hmm.
people that go to prison, and for them it's like they went to a fucking university. Obviously, it's not the
Yeah.
fucking same. But as far as like, there's some people that got real educated up in there. Even some of the talking about revolutionaries, someone
Yes.
like Malcolm X, right? He had a, I'm not. He didn't have to go there to figure that out. But the way his happened for him is he
Mm-hmm.
got locked up, and the whole like knowledge of self, the whole uh uh. What was it? Was it 5% at first, or was it just straight Nation of Islam?
Yeah, it's straight Nation of
Yeah, right.
Islam. I don't think he
Yeah,
went
so
into
they,
5%ers. No,
yeah, no. That came after. That was the babies of the nation, right? That's like the future.
the
Yeah.
fruit
Okay.
of Islam. You're
So,
talking about the fruit of
yeah.
Islam. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, so because of how he was, in his mind, he didn't let himself because of the OGs that fucking woke him up to it, right? So, Karis One was talking about, yes, I think he talks about what like the fifth dimension. That's the one, right? Where he talks about what you have up here, and you start to get enough people to see it that way.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, like, obviously, obviously, life that's what it is. But
Mm-hmm.
even like the whole like America and freedom and like the whole idea of what America was. Everybody that bought into that from around the world and other countries that came
Mm,
here from that dream, from that imagination,
mm,
right? Like of what America was or is. Um, yeah, like that itself was something that everybody agreed on. Like, oh wow, this is the greatest country in the, the whole thing. That whole
mhm,
thing,
the false
like
hope. Yeah.
yeah. So you get a bunch of people to start believing that shit, it becomes something, um, and that's what I started noticing on like as above so below. If that happened on that scale, like let me
yes.
see what I could do in my community, my neighborhood right here. Like I live right here in Santa. How many people got together and saw the vision of what forming a gang was? You know, like in the inception of it all was, hey, we're not from here. We're getting bullied. Let's start walking in groups. And then that itself created this thing, right? What you're talking about, the path you take,
Yeah.
that itself created another path where, it was like, oh shit, like nobody's fucking with us now. And then you start to abuse the power of, you know what I mean? It's crazy, right? They say that once you have the revolution and take over the king, you yourself eventually ends up becoming
Mm-hmm.
that which was, bro. It's fucking crazy. So yeah, gangs. That was the first imagination of it. That was the first vision. Was, hey, let's protect each other, and then it became, oh shit, we got power now. Now instead of it being a righteous thing, now people started taking, and then people started doing selling drugs, and then it became a whole thing.
Yes.
But so imagine I can do the same shit on some hip hop shit. I can literally, well, there's fucking 10 kids running around here in this neighborhood. I can be like, yo, check this album out. I can start feeding them that. The same way I remember people were putting into my head to join the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Like, so the whole imagination shit, bro, like 100%, bro. I've always been that fucking daydreamer on the bus and shit in school. Like, I've always been that kid. I know what the power that has, because a lot of the shit that was in my head eventually became a reality, which was one of the biggest things I ever wanted to do was fucking just bring people together. So yeah, bro,
Mm.
like I 100% like
Yes.
hip hop.
Mm. Kundan, you have anything you want to follow on that? Because then after that, I'm gonna have y'all do last thoughts and wrap ups, so then we can end it for tonight.
Yeah, I also wanted to talk about how our imagination can be manipulated, right? And one really powerful method is called propositional density.
Mm.
And
Propositional
it
what?
originally comes propositional density, right?
Density.
Density, yeah. And it originally comes from logo design, right? But
Hmm.
it
Oh, I probably
can
I
also be
understand.
used it can also be used in speeches and storytelling. And you might notice a very famous person who does it very often, and that's Donald Trump, right? So what is propositional density? So in logo design, even an Instagram logo uses it as well, right?
Mm.
The new logo, right, that they've had for a few years. So basically, the idea is to pack as much meaning as possible into as little elements as possible. So the more you can do that, the higher the propositional density, right?
Holy
And
shit!
if you look at the way Trump talks, not only does he speak at the fourth grade level on purpose, right? Because that's the reading level of most people in the United States, right? But he speaks a lot of things that are very like disjointed and disconnected from each other. Like it seems like he's talking random stuff. But what he's really doing is he's like also leaving a lot of open loops, right? Which is the back, circling back to that. But also there's a lot of propositional density where there's so much meaning into as little as possible. So his space especially, but really anyone will try to extract their own meaning using their imagination out of it. And so this is how we end up with Trump saying nonsense like, drinking bleach or whatever, or, or like, put some light on to cure the, COVID or whatever, right?
Oh
And then
yeah.
people started saying, oh, he's talking ozone therapy. And I'm like, he never actually said that, So people started reading into his stuff that he never actually
Is it kind of
said
like memes?
because he's, huh?
Memes have the same power, right? Memes,
Memes are kind of similar too, yeah.
yeah, huh?
Memes can do that too. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
That's a trip.
Yeah.
Hey, that's some real high. That's some high power. That's some ill wizard shit. That's like there's some science to that shit. And no, because the science is what Kunin said. The more simple you're able to make this shit, you have to have a complex understanding of it.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Exactly.
so that's
Exactly.
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
high level shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. It's
Yes.
fucked
I
up,
mean,
right? Everywhere we look, we see that.
well, that's how a lot of very, you can say, experts in certain fields, and I mean I've seen other YouTube videos on that where there's folks who are either experts in being pianists or artists, musicians, etc., wherever else, if they are able to explain a very complex concept within their art to a 3, 4, 5, whatever year old, and they're able to get it, that's how you know you
Insane.
have a master that understanding there. So I see it. See, so a lot of this stuff is just not just done off of the top at random, like you said. It's very pre-planned and thought out
Right,
thoroughly.
like even the now that I think about it, even the slogans, right? Whether you look at Obama's "Yes We Can" or Trump's "Make America Great Again," it has a lot of prepositional density. Like if you look at "Yes We Can," it's like, okay, yes we can, but we can what? Do what? Right? He doesn't say it, and that's on purpose. Like same thing with "Make America Great Again." It's like there's even a
How?
presupposition in that statement too, which is like great again, like it implies it was great once, it's no longer
Mm-hmm.
great. But but how do you define the word great? He doesn't say,
Yeah.
right? So people make their own meaning out of it. Like
Boom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and was that something that Donald Trump just fucking popped out in his mind one day, or was that like he had a team of people that were like, "Yo, they
I'm
broke they
pretty
broke
sure
it
he had a
down in a way."
team. Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, yeah,
yeah,
heck,
yeah.
that's a trip for sure. How do we counter
I,
that, huh?
we'll figure it out. But with that being said, um, let's go ahead and let's get into wrap ups, last things for the show. So I'm gonna start with, since Freddie came in, I want Freddie to go ahead and start first. So tell me your last things that you want to say, wrap ups to for today's show, whether if it's about movies and books or even this last convo that we were having. You give your last pennies to the folks.
Movies and books. You guys are just talking about random movies. Yeah. I got a gang of books right now. I need to get on for sure. I'm mean, fucking sleeping on it. But no, I just wanted to say what's up. Much love, Kundan, A.D.V.I.S.S. Hopefully, we link up soon. I want to start definitely planning a show. Shout out to the homie Chase, somebody that I want to have come rock. Yeah, bro, it's been a minute since I've done something, so I want to make it happen. And summer's around the corner. Fucking, I want to be as active as I can, and just one thing that I've thought of doing, which I haven't done, is
Yes.
to do like a bi-weekly thing.
Mm.
At first, like it was just like an idea. Now, like the way I'm seeing it is like I think it matters. I think I need to make it happen because, like I said earlier, like that's bro. The whole thing about a cipher is
Yes.
imagination. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like we're all in the zone, and the sickest freestylers are the most what do you say imaginative, right?
Yes.
Um, so yeah, like I want people to take from that. I want to see it like a workshop, where we just
Mm.
fucking, every time like we got to step our bars up. Because one thing that I miss, and I haven't had that in a long time, and I got a bunch of homies right here that flow. Like, what's up? And I miss this shit, bro. And I remember telling myself I never wanted to leave this ever, as old as I got. Was sparring with my homies, like sparring, like going back and forth on some like just that whole rap shit, back and forth. That
Yes.
shit, like, for real, bro. Like looking back, it felt like I was at the fucking gym. It felt like it was like it's a workshop. It's like we're over here training,
Yes.
and I got the same from that than I do fucking playing chess or that I do when I'm reading or that when I'm studying. It's like that whole thing of keeping me on my toes, keeping me sharp, keeping me witty,
Yes.
keeping my imagination going, bro. That's you can't like. I haven't found anything else that tops that. So since I've seen that and I see what it could do,
Yes.
and the people that I've studied have been on that, yeah, bro. Like you'll see something soon, bro. We're gonna
Oh
make
yeah.
some shit happen, dog.
Just let me know. I'm all for it. I'm over here. So far I've rocked 3 shows this year. I still need to do 9 more. So
Oh, that's your goal. Hell yeah.
I want to do at least 12 shows this year, which I know people were like, you can do more. Well, right now, this is going to be the most I've ever done shows anyway. So, hey, it's better to start somewhere than to trying to go and I'm going to do about 50 shows this year. So
But
I'm with
you
it.
got at least 2, 3, 4 for me.
All
I heard
right.
it comes because I want to do. I want to do at least like a couple shows too.
They,
Throw shows. So yeah.
all right, for sure. There it is. And speaking of shows too, Kundan, are we still on for the next week or following weeks for the show too?
Oh yeah, I have to. No, we're not
Okay.
because the Fourth Street is no longer paying us. So we're trying to look for a new venue where we
Okay.
still haven't found one. And yeah, so yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Tuesday.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Understood. Okay. I was just
The
making
Tuesday
sure.
ones. Yeah.
Okay. I was just making sure. Just wanted to be like, if I remembered. But okay. But with that, if we can get to it, Kundan, go ahead. Your last wrap ups and thoughts for tonight's show. Oh, we got the laggings in and out. No.
Oh man,
Uh,
couldn't.
hello, can you still hear me?
Yes, now we can. Yes.
Okay. So there is such a thing called there's professional paid trolling where you can get paid up to $53,000 a year for professional
Yes.
trolling. Right. It
Mm,
is an actual thing.
mm,
You know, you can even
What?
get a job
Shit, let's
on
kick it.
simplyhire.com. You know, and I'm like, that's crazy. You know, and what that means is that the other side is well coordinated, well funded, and well staffed. Right.
wow.
And and
Where do I
so
apply?
we go to simply hire. Yeah, you can get paid like at least 1,000 a month all the way to 53,000 a year, right? And and it's crazy that to find that out, you know. And so like and this is and so also with things like deep fakes and all that, right?
Yes.
It is time we increase our ability to discern, right? And we increase our ability to stay humble, not jump to conclusions when not our let our imagination, especially our trauma, be hijacked, right?
Yes.
And because
Uh,
focus on the right thing, they all of these things I think matter. Where it's like we have to learn how to like protect ourselves from this narrative warfare
yeah.
onslaught, right? Where and this is also where we need to do our own community, community gathering as well, because the other side has billions and trillions of dollars at their disposal. If they can afford to pay one person 53,000 a year just for trolling, it's imagine how many they're paying, right? How many
Yes.
people they're paying,
Wow, it's
right?
crazy.
Right. And especially with like I said mentioned earlier where I was telling you with these crazy things like the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party having these fake police stations all over the world in like 53 to 100 countries, right?
Yeah.
But with the actual police officers in those fake police stations, right? And the NYPD finally arrested one of them, right? But there's so many more all over the world. So it is time we increase our ability to know how stories affect us, how narrative affects us,
Yes.
and to not let our imagination be manipulated like that.
Send me the link.
Beautifully said. Of
Hmm.
course. And Kunin said, go to Simply Hired. So you got to go look for it. But with that being said, y'all, this has been another episode of What's the Word Wednesdays, final season 4. I want to give my shout outs and thanks to Kunden as well as Fredword, the wizard himself. Shouts out to Notes and all of y'all in the comments. I'm very appreciative. Diamond, literally all my brothers and sisters and folks who came through. So thank y'all for coming through so much. Now, when it comes to my wrap up for the show and us heading out, when it comes to current
Freestyle,
events,
freestyle.
Yeah.
of course you're going to do it. When it comes to current events and letting them know what's going on around you, it's important that you pay attention to the news so that you can be properly informed because proper preparation prevents poor performance. All these pippa the peas. So be mindful of what's happening around you because it's just not only you, it's the world around us. 2, when it comes to movies and books, it's more fun filled. But depending on you got your favorite movie and you get more details from the book, that's your perspective. If you get the opposite, you get more details from the movie versus the book, that's how you find it. If you love movies, you don't really like reading in the books, that's one way of you gathering information. And vice versa. If you get more information from the books versus the movies, it's a beautiful thing. But just know that those two are linked and paired, and these are other ways for you to explore and add to your own wisdom and your own experience. And lastly, when it comes to how imagination and stories predict the path you take, you heard it here from just about everyone else. You want to make sure that your imagination is extremely powerful. It's being tested every day. It is either going this way to either be manipulated, or is it going this way to help you to find your path to your revolutions and your growth. So you can be in that garden and try to be prevented from getting that water, but ultimately y'all are all still planted in the same place. So it's all up to you and your perspective to make sure that you watch out and be mindful of where you want to go, how you're going to do it, and put the intention and the energy behind it. But with that, y'all, this has been another episode of What's the Word Wednesdays. I've been your brother A.D.V.I.S. Again, thank you, Kundan. Thank you, Fred. I appreciate y'all so much. We'll catch y'all next Wednesday, and I'm going to be doing it on these next couple of Wednesdays for the next episode. But other than that, peace and one love. Get some hauls. Stay fresh. Check me out on A.D.V.I.S. Speaks on YouTube, and we out. Peace.